Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another season of the Belgian Football Podcast. My name's Ben Jackson. I'm returning for another year. We've signed Scott. We've signed Joris. They are both back as well for another year. Guys, have you had a good, I would say good summer, but it's still summer. Like for me here, I'm sat in a vest because I'm absolutely sweltering on the south coast of England. But have you guys had a good summer? Did you enjoy the World Cup? How are we doing? Are we ready already for another league of Belgian Pro League football?
Well, everybody's favourite podcast is back, kids. We know that much. World Cups, from a Belgian perspective, it was a decent World Cup. Bit of a rocky ride in the end, but the end result was okay. We've got a new coach, of course. That's not for this episode. We will return to that at some point. But yeah, plenty of water has passed under that bridge. But yeah, we're back to talk all things Pro League because, we're ready to go again.
Yeah, Scott is right. Dan Carlin's Hardcore History just released one of his 2 episodes this year, or something like that. So, your favorite podcast is available. But there's a good alternative in here as well, of course. Personally, of course, I'm also expecting a transfer quite soon still. So, for our private life. So, I guess we might have a new signing coming in the upcoming weeks. Let's say maybe days even. We'll see.
But, it's not quite here we go confirmed. But I don't think we can use that anymore because I don't know if you guys saw the social media spat between everyone's favourite transfer grifters. No grifters on this podcast, I'm happy to say. Everything we're going to talk about is pretty much confirmed or from places we actually think know their sources and actually get things right most of the time. But if you haven't listened to one of these before, we're just going to run through every single team in the Pro League. It always changes, the format's changing, all that sort of stuff. So every year it's kind of slightly different. We've got 18 teams this year to get through, so it's going to be a little bit of a slog. Apologies to Zulte Waregem fans. Hopefully we'll still have our marbles with us by the time we get to you at the very end of this one. We'll run through the transfers, the ins and outs, the managerial changes, and then we'll just kind of have a little bit of a chat about where we think that particular team is at that current moment in time. Just a reminder as well, there's no playoffs this year. Scott and I had a little bit of a chat about that and how that could affect kind of getting things going. For a lot of clubs, they kind of take a little bit of a while to get going, but then they kind of get to the playoffs and peak then. But you can't really afford to do that this season. We are kind of into normal, regular football. I, for one, will miss the playoffs, I think. I'd never thought I'd say this when we started the podcast, but something about them. There is something about them. But anyway, let's get on with things because we've got a lot to get through and not as much time as we'd ideally hope to have. So we'll start with Anderlecht. First off, new head coaching, obviously. Vitor Bruno, Portuguese head coach who had a stint as Porto manager. He has come in. They've already started their season. They played Hammarby in the Europa League qualifiers, got through eventually, a little bit squeaky, but they managed to get through. Danilo Sican has started to score a couple of goals, guys. Maybe he should kind of be on everyone's radar for having a pretty decent season. Who knows? But yeah, a decent start for Bruno. Let's quickly go through the players that are going to be at his disposal this season. So in terms of incomings, we've got Lucas Ambros. He comes in from Kortrijk Zabrze in the Extraklasse. Oliver Antman comes in from Rangers. That could prove to be a really good signing if they get him playing like he did for the Go Ahead Eagles before he moved to Scotland. Julian Bianconi joins from Olympiacos. He's back in the Pro League, former Cercle Brugge defender. Leo Petro joins from Elche on a free transfer as well. Still work to be done, I think we're all safe to say there for that squad. Outgoings Nathan de Cat has left. He goes to Hoffenheim for a reasonably decent fee. We'll definitely be keeping an eye on him because I think, we'll be talking about him as a Red Devil at some point, that's for sure. I think I'll be surprised if he doesn't push on to that. Giancarlo Simic has gone to the Saudi Pro League with Al Ittihad. Keisuke Hoto has gone to Freiburg. I think he was never coming back after that celebration for Sint-Truiden last year, was he? Torgan has left on a free. He's gone to Lens. Ibrahim Kanate has gone on loan to Kaiserslautern. Anas Chajuat has gone to LeuvenLa Louvière. Javre Schoen's left on a free. Mats Ritz has left on a free. Joachim Imbrex has left on a free. And a million players have left after their loan deals expired. I can't be bothered to talk about them. Scott, Anderlecht. Anton Sibierski's first summer in charge. what do you make of his kind of moves so far?
Well, the window has been pretty quiet for Anderlecht so far. That's not a criticism of them, because I think everybody's has to varying degrees. Antoine has been very quiet himself as well. He likes to fly under the radar, which I find an interesting way of operating. Anderlecht, I have kind of given up making predictions or saying too much about Anderlecht, because they've been so perpetually disappointing now that I think that's the wisest thing to do. Vitor Bruno coming in, really interesting one, was I think probably it was an underwhelming land for most Anderlecht fans and for a lot of other people, but it kind of makes sense as well when you dig a little bit deeper and look at why they've gone down that road. If you want more detail on Vitor Bruno, this will be the first of many plugs for my Substack on Belgian Fields. I wrote, a long form article on Vitor Bruno, his background, and why Anderlecht have gone down this Portuguese road. I think we just need to wait and see. Really, to be honest, I don't want to make any predictions about Anderlecht. Internally, of course, they're going for third. I think that's probably the best they could hope for. And if they were to do that, it would be an extraordinarily successful season. Domestically, as far as the league's concerned, and obviously they've got the cup to play for like everyone else. Consistency is going to be very important. Ben mentioned the changing format. No longer can you really afford to have, a pretty miserable, say, third of your season. You need to find some degree of consistency at some point, because no point's having either. So, the way the race will be run this year will be slightly different, I think. So getting points on the board early is arguably more important than ever before as well. Not too much more to say about Anderlecht other than that. Ben mentioned Oliver Antman, who's actually a very, very good player. And I was interested to see that Sibierski has been very quiet, as I was saying. There's been very little direct links with the club, with players before their business has been done, which is kind of quite good. I think, because that shows a degree of professionalism, I think, in their operations. But as of now, they are so far from being ready that it's difficult to say how they're going to do at all. But that goes for so many of the sides as well. So they need to find some consistency early. And they need to get some points on the board, because as of now, I actually think they're quite vulnerable.
Yeah, I would say it was, as usual, the last few years, a bit of turmoil again, as well. A lot of players indeed running out of contracts. Some of them, you might need to have run out, like Hazard. But of course, he also, despite his levels dropping a bit, he did bring a lot of goals and even assists, I think, as well last year still. So these are things to be replaced, and not all of that is addressed yet, I'd say. But I would also say more in the staff as well, more changes. Of course, already with the manager that we already spoke about, but also 5 others non-sportive staff members, I believe, are out. On the other hand, Jean Kindermans is back at the academy. Sibierski indeed also has his first summer. Also, Delos, right hand basically of Kindermans as well for the youth academy. Things are looking bright. So, despite what I said, again, turmoil, I do feel like possibly they finally got a lot of the right people in the right places appointed, either back or in. Of course, very early to say, but also here that that's why it's maybe still important to mention Kindermans, that the symbiosis between Kindermans and Sibierski is going quite well, talking about football and also looking at what is coming in the youth and which which positions need to be addressed. Things you will expect in every side, but in practice doesn't always happen like that, or not as well. We've also seen already some youngsters getting some chances because of some of the lack of transfer activity. Onyaseke is the main one there. I guess he might feature a bit more further along the season. And Gakana also, he had already made his debut by the end of last year, but also featured we'll see if he will stay with their senior squad or will drop down mostly for the futures in that for getting some playing time in. Now Antman is in, of course, and Lucas Ambrose as well, of course. So Biancone looks a decent signing as well at the back, but it's really difficult to judge at the moment, of course, with only those games against Hammarby behind the belt. Of course, is more than we have from many other sides, most of the other sides actually. But he looks comfortable at the ball, and good to have him back. But the main points, I feel like what still needs to be addressed is probably really a maybe, even though Antman and Ambrose indeed already fill it in a little bit, some more attacking players still coming in, and generally the gut replacement still. I feel like that's still maybe on the cards as well. Of course, they might shuffle a bit around with the players they have as well, but there are some points to be positions to be addressed still, I'd say. But they look not ready, maybe, especially before the European games. They were not ready yet. But many sides. I don't get how many. Also, maybe the right point still early in the episode. I don't get how everything is being so slow. Of course, there's a World Cup, so I do get some reasons behind it, but like you guys also already mentioned, no playoffs. So you really need to be there from the start. All the sides that miss their starts, might not reach their objectives, whether that may be European football, a title, or stay out of relegation worries. These are all things that could be decided inside the first 5 league games if you have either a really good start or a really bad one, of course. So that's I feel like a lot of teams are betting on that a bit, with the realities of the transfer market, of course, as well. Indeed, starting a bit, maybe not at the highest levels. During the World Cup, there were some transfers at the highest level as well, but it is accelerating. You also see it now. Last week, I even tweeted out my concerns about this, and in the meantime, actually, a lot of transfers have happened, so it is speeding up. Teams are cleaning up with their signings, but they won't have had a full preseason or even a decent preseason with the side they will be playing with, at least. So that's a general concern for the levels in the league in this first month, at least.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, isn't it? And at least they've actually got a head coach in place. I mean, one team only just announced their head coach today as of recording, which is Monday the 3rd of August, and the games start this weekend. I think, to give them some credit, I think the Europa League game, like it's always one of those ones where, like, you'll see it's like a Scandinavian team has been playing football. Obviously, even though they've had the World Cup break, they are a little bit more into their groove and into their rhythm. So they're always tougher games, in my opinion. And because the standard of like kind of Norwegian and Swedish football has risen quite a bit in like recent years, that's like, it's a decent result. I just think, and I don't know, there's none of these transfers, like, they're not bad players, but they're not like interesting or like, oh, that's different. You're looking somewhere, like, you know, when you see like Union will pick up someone from here, or like even Club will be like, we're just picking up this kid from the Swiss league. Do you know what I mean? I just don't think Anderlecht ever really do that. And I'm kind of like, you've got kind of these young players and teenage players coming through, but then you're signing players like Thomas Fokker, who's still there. You've got Ashimiru still there. You've got Flips, who's still there. Like, there's just these guys like Petro who comes in from Elche or like Olympiacos. Like, you're signing players from leagues that most people will know about and scout. And I think, where are you finding the kind of like the interesting players or the different players? I don't know. I don't know if that's like fair or not. I don't dislike.
Aside from the Polish league this time, to be fair.
Yeah, and that's like the one that's like, but they spent like a fair amount of money on him for Polish league signing as well. Do you know what I mean? So it's not like that. So like, I do like some, like, obviously I like seeing like them giving kind of the youth a chance and stuff like that. I like the Antman signing. I do think it's not like a direct replacement, but it's kind of like you could get someone who's creating chances and goals like Hazard was, but he's younger and he's got something to prove now because the Rangers transfer didn't go as well as he wanted it to. I think Svetkovic is one I'm looking at this season to score some more goals as well. I've liked what I've seen from him. Obviously, there's interest in him. They've still got some work to do in terms of outgoings as well, like with Flips and Fockett and players like that. If they lose Mamar at right back, like those, they can't rely on Sardella and Camera because those guys are always injured. So they'll need to go and get a right back there. Left back as well, is NDI going to stay? Unsure, not decided. Then it's just Augustinsson. I want to see Basil play more. Basil Frodix, I like what I saw of him for like 2 minutes or whatever it was. He seems like an all-action fullback that's just going to be up and down, which I can get behind. Nathan Saliba looked good at the World Cup, guys, as well. I thought he played really well for Canada. So I think he could be coming back in and having a really good kind of season in central midfield. We're thinking about it a little bit more recently as well, like how a lot of teams do have some really good central midfielders. And I think that's where the Pro League has some really good players in there. So I think it's important to have players in it that can that are fit and fit and slightly athletic and can get about. And they've got that in Saliba. Lanzano as well, I think he can be quite athletic and kind of get himself about. So yeah, Marius Schoikens is still only 21 as well. That still blows my mind. It feels like he's been around forever and he keeps having bad injuries, and is he going to leave and stuff like that? So I agree. There's plenty of work to be done.
Early signs, he's not a favorite of Vitor Bruno, so I guess he could be leaving still as well.
Next Yari.
There's always on the incoming side this one that will hang over every transfer summer until it might finally maybe happen. Lukaku, is he coming back or not? That would also change the whole season potentially.
If he comes back, I'd love it. No, I know that he gets memed like so much outside of kind of like Belgian circles, but you watch the World Cup and you're like, this man just, when he comes on and puts that Belgian shirt on, he just does stuff. Like, even when he's not fit, he does stuff. So I think he should just come back now. Stuff going to the MLS, stuff doing any of that stuff, mate. Just come back and like, you get a hero's welcome. You're still fit enough, like in terms of like your ability wise and stuff like that, your strength. Like, I just think it'd be so good. And especially for the young players as well, like having Lukaku around, like he's always around anyway, isn't he? Like just come back and actually play. So yeah, I hope it happens soon. I really do, because it'd just be great. I'm a big fan of Big Rom. One side that we'll move on to next, we'll move on to Cercle Brugge, which, I mean, it could have been an interesting chat, guys, because the transfers in until a couple of days ago would have been none. But then they went and started to make some moves. So we've got Joel Ndala coming in from Manchester City, left winger. He's only about 20 years old. I think he's on loan at Bolton or Oldham. I'm getting all these guys. Like I've looked at so many transfers, I can't remember. But he was was loaned out into kind of the Football League last season. Lucas Mondelli comes in from Frank Boran. Scott, I'm going to have to pick your brains on that one because I've not seen enough of him to know if he's ready for the step up at all. Lazar Mani comes in on a free from Kifisia in Greece. Good to have him back. I think he could be a really, really key player for Cercle Brugge if he's fit and back to the levels he was. He could be the replacement for Leonardo Lopez that they never actually got, in my opinion. Gaetan Cook is also back. Another familiar name. Good to have him back. One of the best keepers in the league on his day. Wasn't always his day, though. Lucas Michel comes in. He's the only player signed from Monaco at the moment on loan, so I'll be interested to see if that changes at any time soon. Other way, Flavio Nazinho has finally left, and he's gone to Monaco. Big surprise. Varlason's left, which I feel like we should have a moment's silence for Varlason. He's been around forever. I've loved him with his goalkeeping assists and stuff. So they've lost a couple of assists there. Niels Savald's left. He's gone to the Onion Boys, Aalst, if they are still the Aalst of the Onion variety. Benny Mpanzu has gone to Dordrecht as well. And a couple of players have left back on loan. I guess the biggest one would be Eden Diop. He was pretty good for them on loan from Monaco last season. Not sure. They don't normally, guys, do they bring people back for the second spell from Monaco? That doesn't usually happen. It's normally a one and done. I can't quite remember the last time a player came back twice. So, Josh, we'll go to you first on this one. I'm expecting some more moves maybe from Monaco. Last Free said he's hoping for some kind of new signings as well. But are you worried about how young this team is again? Because you sort that team by age and it is kids. It really is kids with a couple of older heads. But even Lazar Mani at 28 is like an experienced old head at this moment.
Yeah, a little bit worried. Indeed, I can share Ries's worries. There's always a good sign when a manager is already unhappy during the preseason, especially since he's not been there that long in the previous season either yet. So that's that's definitely I can follow his feelings, at least his emotions on that. You touched on the most important transfers already, of course, as well. But Wargelsson deserves an extra mention again, of course. Even though he has actually played less games than I thought he did, like a little more than 100, I believe, for Cercle. So yeah, after 6.5 years, I believe that is relatively little, but of course he has actually been in and out of squads quite a while, especially in the first of those seasons. My main worries lie with the defense, as is a repetitive topic like every season. Still not convinced they have enough both depth and quality in there. After Nazinho in the left, they also only have one left back, I guess, except Kondo maybe can play there as well, but then they might be short on center back. So that's that difficult thing to address. And indeed, they're still a very young side, one of the younger ones. I mean, I don't necessarily see big issues for them at the end of the season, but it depends if the strikers can score, like a striker partnership or alone on their own. Ngura and Van Zer are possibly good enough for this for keeping it out of safety, but yeah, they don't always turn on the goals. They have their spell, so if they do it, if they're in the right spell, sure, but if they both have a dry spell for too long, especially Van Zer, he's not been really much in goal scoring for him anyway, even since at Cercle Brugge. Ngura had his better spell towards the end of the last season, but these are conditions for them not to be in big trouble, I think. Plus, some transfers, of course. So like I said, defense maybe. Koeke, might be as a decent replacement for Wargelsson, for sure. But yeah, everywhere there's a little option still. I guess also in midfield, it may be one extra center midfielder still. What are they going to do on the wings is another question. Not complete. Yeah, a lot of question marks indeed. Like, can't really say that their squad is not super thin, but yeah, indeed filled with a lot of very youthful players, which maybe don't all will feature all that much across the whole season. So definitely slight question. Well, no, big question marks and slight worries. In my own prediction, which I will reveal later on, of course, only they are going to be safe, but not by the biggest of margins.
One really encouraging thing I will say about Cercle is there were some really positive signs towards the end of last season, I think, under Lars Vries. The way he had them playing, particularly offensively. You know, Joris was talking about, the defensive frailties, which have been there for a long time. They predate the current setup, really. But I think there was a real sense that offensively they were getting better and creating a lot of opportunities. And that's why Lars Vries's point over the last few days about we've got a lot of work to do, can we sign somebody please, was important, because he wanted some creative players and some more offensive players to really kind of kick on in that sense. And obviously the last few days, as Ben was saying, they've brought in a few, and actually in a firepower sense, looking at it at the moment, Joris was saying as well, it's not too bad. I think he's right. Lazara Mane, I think, can contribute a lot. The two that interest me, Joel and Dalla, that's a really interesting one. They're very excited by him, and I can understand why. That's Cercle hoping to bring in a player who's kind of Doku-esque in terms of maybe what he brings the side. And Lucas Michel, the young striker on loan from Monaco, is obviously there to a little bit of extra competition and an alternative to Ngura and Van Zier as well. So he's starting to get what he really needs now, Lars Vries, who I'm a massive fan of, by the way. I'm just going to, reiterate that again. Big fan of Lars Vries. I like his charisma. I like his approach to the game tactically. I just like him. He kind of, he ticks a lot of boxes for me, I think, and he's a good fit for the club. So Cercle at the moment, this is an entirely different conversation now to if we'd kind of had this yesterday or 48 hours ago, I think, isn't it? So I feel a bit more positive about them. I agree with yours. I think they're going to be okay. I think if they can push towards mid-table, they'll have had a really good season, looking much further ahead in terms of our prediction. But, if they can continue the work that they did towards the end of last season and these new offensive players can start to contribute positively and be consistent, which is a word we're going to start using maybe a little bit more than efficiency this season, then, they might do well. But long live Lars Friis, because I like Lars.
Yeah, no, I like Lars Friis as well. I can get on board on the Lars Friis train. I just think he needs one experienced defender. Just someone nearer 30 would be nice. I think Gaetan Kuk could be a busy man between the posts. Because basically at the moment you're just looking for kind of natural development from a player like Emmanuel Kako, who I think he had some moments last season where I was like, he actually looks all right. But then there's other moments where you're like, whoa, he's way out of position now. He's not in the right place there. You guys have mentioned a couple of players that you're looking at and thinking what they're going to be. And then you're kind of hoping that, Amani, big fan of Gary Magny as well. It was very consistent for them last season. He's kind of the player you want to put into these sort of teams. Like, this is his kind of, I don't want to be, I'm not being offensive to him, but like, this is his kind of level of team, if you know what I mean, like kind of hoping to fit into the mid-table, and he can just kind of be a really effective player in that side and a starter rather than a squad player on a slightly bigger team. So I do like Gary Magny in there as well, but someone's got to put the ball in the net, and that's the biggest fear still. It's like someone's got to put the ball in the net because they've got players that create chances in there, and someone's got to stop the ball going in. Coop can definitely do that, but he'd probably like to have a little bit more protection than he does right now. And I presume that's probably what Friis is saying. And yeah, their average age is 23.1. I looked up. And I also just want to apologise because I said Jordan Dahler had played for like Oldham and Bolton and that, but he actually played for Hull and then he played for Sheffield Wednesday. So he had a very weird season, kind of last season, because he was part of Hull at the beginning of the season. They then go on and get promoted, and he was part of Sheffield Wednesday for the second half of the season. He got relegated. So it's kind of like a strange one. But I'm just saying this because he's moved over from England, but maybe he's the next Rabbi Matondo. Maybe he comes over, bangs a load of goals, gets a move to Scotland, and I don't think I've heard from him since. Scott randomly mentions him every now and then to kind of remind us of what's going on there, but I don't think I've actually heard of Rabbi Matondo since he left.
Random tangent on Ndala as well. Like, he also seems to have had a loan spell from the Manchester City under-21s to the Nottingham Forest under-21s at some point earlier in his career, of course. But that sounds a bit fishy as well, actually, I guess.
That sounds, yeah. They've have all these things, don't they, about like the finances and stuff that people make some weird moves, and it was just corrupt Premier League. Who knows? One player that has joined the Premier League is Christos Solis. There'll be no more Solis magic on the podcast this season, sadly. So let's quickly switch our attention to the defending champions and club that is, of course, Club Brugge. They've made a lot of money once again this summer. They've spent a reasonable amount. They bought Andrei Vasovic, in from FC Luzern, 18-year-old central forward for about 7 million euros. Hanboom Lee signed today, I believe he did, from FC Midtjylland in the Danish Superliga, another defender, 24-year-old South Korean international. Javier Tasawa, central midfielder from FC Zurich. He was kind of the one I was alluding to earlier about Club Brugge going and signing midfielders from the Swiss League. He looks like he could be an interesting player. And at the complete opposite end of the career is Jan Sommer. We're getting a bit of Jan Sommer action in the Belgian Pro League. 2-year deal as well at 37. What was Simon Mignolet doing? He had plenty of time there. 3-year deal. Oh, that's mad. Absolutely mad. But he's a good goalkeeper. He is a good goalkeeper. So it'd be interesting to see how long he can last. I think they needed to get in someone. And interesting that they went with. There were a lot of names kind of banded about, weren't there? Matty Ryan was linked with coming back at one point as well. In terms of outgoing Solis, we've mentioned 40 million euros. That's a huge move to Arsenal as well. Interested to see how he does. Really interested to see if he can make the step up. Stankovic, he came and he left. back to Inter for 23 odd million. Onedika finally gets his move. He joins Eintracht Frankfurt. Zaid Romero, remember him? He was actually there. He's gone to Getafe. Sandro Campbell's gone to Kortrijk. We'll talk about him when we get to the Kortrijk segment. Mignolet obviously retired at the age of 38. Danny van den Heuvel had a bit of game time, and OH Leuven were like searching. They were like, goalkeepers with Pro League experience, we'll take you on a free, because that's how they probably operate their transfers. So that's Club Brugge. They're interested in a winger. I think we're not kind of breaking news there. There's a couple of names on the list for wingers that they're interested in. Obviously, with Solis gone, they probably will need to replace that. Campbell obviously going out the door as well suggests they didn't see him as kind of playing in that position or stepping up into that kind of the role left there. So they probably do want to do that. But I guess, guys, when I look at kind of who's ready to start the season and who's got things in order and who can probably hit the ground running, this is probably a team that is, for me, they're title favourites. Whether that's with or without even Lecco by the end of the season, I'm not too sure. But I've got them as title favourites. I think by the end of the summer, they'll have a team ready to win the league, to be honest. Scott, Joris was shaking his head, so I'm interested to see where we get to him. But Scott,
we'll keep everybody holding on for a little bit longer, so Joris can reveal why he was shaking his head. I think me and Ben know. I think on paper they start as title favourites. I would agree with that on paper. At the moment on the pitch, I think it's pretty much up for grabs. I think there'll be a couple of sides, one in particular who will have a lot to say about this. I mean, they start as favourites on the basis of the fact that we know they get the job done most of the time. How they're going to approach the new league format, of course, that's interesting, because Club are one of those sides, and it's worth highlighting that there's an inconsistency about them, certainly in recent years anyway, where they've had big wobbles at points and really kicked up a few gears and got the job done when they needed to, because of the playoffs and because of the points having and because of the system. How will they respond to, as I was saying at the beginning, running the race differently over the course of a season? Because there are other sides in the league that I think have been a little bit better at doing that over the majority of the season. That's an interesting caveat, I think. So, on paper favourites. They've done what they do very well. They've sold high-profile talent for big fees. They've reinvested a fair chunk of that in a mixture of younger prospects who will probably earn them the same bigger fees in 12 to 18 months, and also some experienced depth as well. Summers being the obvious one. They needed a quality goalkeeper at the back, and Gillian Predom, who's now in charge of the recruitment at Club, has gone with Summers. Interestingly, I think if Gillian Predom had not come in as head of recruitment and it had stayed Davy de Go, I think we might have seen a Belgian goalkeeper. It was Gillian Predom who said, nope, I want to throw the net open to Europe and elsewhere. I'm not bothered about it necessarily being Belgian. So I think it would have been somebody different. Key choice, that. A good one, I think. Really experienced goalkeeper, and experienced goalkeepers with quality are important, and he's still got a lot to offer. Clear title favourites at the moment, but with some real caveats.
Yeah, on Sommer, I was arguing with some Club Brugge fans earlier when that transfer was announced, like the 3 years deal that would, for me, that's too long, because they have a big trust in this young guy, Arjus van den Driessen, and they want to avoid a Lommel scenario where they had a talent at their hands, didn't give it a chance at any time, or a real chance at least, and let him go eventually. It is, of course, difficult in a position that Club Brugge are in. Goalkeepers have a big responsibility in getting results over the line, of course. And any mistake is, of course, taken hard, and they can't really afford to drop a lot of points as well. But why I was shaking my head, you actually touched on that already, Scott. Club Brugge have. Well, one, I'm not super convinced yet by what the transfers have done. So I feel like also they have been quite slow in doing their business, even though in comparison to others, maybe not necessarily. But not entirely convinced nonetheless. That might change by this end of summer. But this time they they can't come back from behind and pull it back for in the playoffs like they've been relying on heavily the last few years. So and I'm not sure if that completely has sunk in with them yet. But they're not the only side where that is the case, like I mentioned in the beginning as well. So I mean, I still see them as title contenders for sure, but I don't see them as a favorite myself. I know that's an unpopular opinion as well, though. I think most people would say, and I wouldn't be fully surprised. Well, no, I would definitely not be surprised if they take it. But yeah, a lot of things going on as well, of course. Oscar obviously already touched, and we touched on it by the end of last season as well. Rigaud leaving, the new structure at the club. Stadium news as well, of course. New stadium coming. So there are a lot of positive news around the club as well at the same time. But yeah, outgoings, that's where my thing is indeed. Like Mignolet, Solis, Stankovic, yes, they have been replaced to a certain extent, at least by names yet. And obviously, there's a big plus. Sommer, Zawa, and Vazovic all coming from Switzerland, and the big plus is the joke from the flag, of course. Never mind. But but I'm not sure if Zawa is already there. I think it's a level below Stankovic, for example. Currently, of course, based on potential, that could change. Vazovic, I'm also not sure if he will be able to go immediately, especially if he might be able to push Vermand out as well, potentially. There are also some rumors there. They have brought in someone in defense now, of course, as well, with Lee from Midtjylland, and I think that's a very important one. Only announced today, so still a bit relatively late business, but I do feel like that was highly needed as well, especially with Ordonez being out for the foreseeable future as well for now. Whether or not he also still makes a transfer despite that injury, yet another question mark. But yeah, my main concern indeed is is Stankovic replaced properly, well enough? Reis has been told that he could leave together with Nilsson as well, but so I had originally written or Le Marachal or Reis should step up to as well together with Zawa, of course. But yeah, that's I still feel like there's more things to come and to probably both out and incoming for Club, and I feel like they already lost a lot, which they have tried to replace, and they've done their business in relatively early in that sense still. But I still feel like, yeah, I'm contradicting myself maybe a little bit. I don't think they did it early enough, something like that, or with certainty enough. There's something lacking, anyway, I would say. But one to watch from after the youth as well, of course, which could also change a lot of things, of course, is coming from the youth, but not a Belgian player. Also a big transfer earlier, but is Koren as well, of course. He had a really good substitute performance in the Super Cup already. And yeah, we'll be waiting to see how he will perform in the league as well. So maybe that answers one of my question marks as well still. But we will see, of course.
Yeah, I think you mentioned someone that I want to see more of and get back to his best is Felix de Martial. I think we need to see him. Because it was, like you said, the Rice stuff. The Rice stuff's interesting because I thought I felt like he hasn't really had much of a chance, but maybe there's a reason he hasn't had much of a chance. Nielsen was always thought was a bad signing. Scott and I were talking about how there's some players that you buy that just you're like, how are they going to fit? What they're going to do? When he went to the World Cup, I was like, Graham Potter's a madman. What is he doing? How is that ever going to work? But Leicester as well stepped up a little bit at the end of the season, so that he'll probably play a little bit more in the midfield area. So yeah, I think I say their title favourites. For me it's very much a 2-horse race, and I think everyone knows who the other team is. They're obviously in the with the shout, and they've obviously signed one of my favourite players in the world in the history of football, which we'll talk about when we get there. So I'd obviously want that individual to win the title. One side that probably isn't going to be involved in the race for the title, unfortunately for Joris, is Genk. They've done a bit of moving and shaking. Rafiu Durosinmi has come in from Pisa. 10 million euros seems quite a lot of money for Genk to be spending on a striker, but he's Nigerian, guys. He's Nigerian. you get a Nigerian striker in at Genk, good things usually happen. So he's going to hit 30. He's going to be, he's the next Onuachu. He's the next Tolu. Maybe not
and
Tolu.
then they won't fight for the title if he does that, or what?
I mean, you can bang the 30 in, but it's kind of, maybe elsewhere. Jeppe Ehrenberg, he comes in. That is the most Gent signing ever, but Genk have decided to do it instead. Out goes Karetsas. He left today as of recording. He's gone to Dortmund. I think it's probably a good move for him. Good club to go to. Should get some game time. Should get to develop. Brent Stevens has gone to Beerschot. And Yusuf Arabi has gone to Preston on loan. So good luck to him there. Joris, obviously going to come to you where your thoughts are at. Goalkeeping, obviously, it looks like it's going to, with the previous manager, it looked like it was going to be Luca Brusman's. But now, yes, Thorup has come in, so I don't know if he's changed anything. Thoughts on Thorup, thoughts on the squad, thoughts on the transfer business. Good luck.
Talking about a side that's not ready for the start. That's this one. There's a lot of them, and I'm of course very focused on this one, but this one is so not ready for the start. Again, also here a lot of turmoil, both on and off the pitch. Some things, of course, like as you noticed, I've been taking some of the last end of season things as well in there, but like CEO left before end of season. Now Hayen also left in the middle of pre-season as well. Thorup coming in, I'm not the biggest fan because of what he did to Genk before already as well, leaving after, 39 days, I believe, or something around that. The results were good, though, at that time. Didn't lose a game with Genk, but they didn't play so well either, so that was more lucky than anything else as well. And I feel like currently, in the state they are in at the moment, they really would need a lot of that as well. They had announced a big overhaul of the squad and trying to release a lot of players. That still has to happen. Some of only Arabi really has left in that sense. Okay, Karetsas, of course, also, but that's not what you mean with try. It's more like taking the bad apples out and then like the players that are not necessarily bad apples only, but like fringe players out that have been paid for, and unfortunately, that has not that has not worked out so well yet. Have to give a little bit of time maybe as well, because these kind of deals are generally maybe also the deals that are done towards the end of a transfer window, but nonetheless, there's so much work to be done. I would have expected a lot more to have been done already. Just like I mentioned, Ehrenberg, I'm nothing personal against him, but I don't feel like he's the type of player, at least, that Genk will need as well. Completely do not get that signing. He's not bringing a different type of play as Heijmans. They paid a lot for him, for Heijmans as well earlier. So it doesn't bring a change. Now Karetsas finally has left. That was coming anyway, even though I feel like he probably could have benefited it from one more season, and Genk would have benefited a lot of that as well, mainly still in the league. But that was coming. There was a lot that's one of the last pieces of creativity in that squad that has left and has not been replaced. Like Ehrenberg is not that type of player. Yes, he can play more or less in these positions, but he doesn't have that spark. He can have a great goal. He can have a great pass at times as well. But it's just different. Different technical ability to name one thing, dribbling and so on. It's a different type of player which Genk don't need at the moment because they already have one like that. So I really do not get that transfer. So I hope he will do a lot better than I'm expecting him to do. But nonetheless. Yeah, but that's one I don't get. Duronsinmi, I get to an extent. Genk have been after him for a while. Hasn't really done it at Pisa, so that might make it look a bit strange as well to have like this large sum of money paid for him. But the Condé believes a lot in him, of course, and let's hope that he can bring that as well. On the other hand, it also brings rumors of people or Mirisola leaving at the same time. That's also not ideal, although I get like striking position, that's actually one position where they needed to do something despite those two being there. Just starting a season with just those two would maybe be too big of a gamble at this kind of position. That said, as been mentioned, Brugmans is going to start in goal, and as I mentioned at Club Brugge as well, it's always a risk, and they will make mistakes, goalkeepers, regardless of age. But the age will become a factor if that would happen soon. Luckily, he had that spell already, even if it was only in the Euro playoffs at the end of last season, where he proved to be up for the task, and hopefully he can indeed confirm that. But my main concerns are more than just creativity, but that's definitely top two concern. Second concern is center back. They've been playing with Sattelberger the whole preseason as a center back, and that seems to be the idea. He filled in for Gent in the last game against Gent because there were so many players of Genk out by that time, so they had to shuffle around, and he did okay in that game, of course, but he's not a center back. You can see that and in preseason as well. They had some big defeats as well, but more worrying than those defeats are also the lack of intensity, the lack of of grit as well, and then just technical abilities, the lack of creativity, and then still making a lot of mistakes at the back as well, which are a recurring issue, I think, since last season. So there's so much things going on. Not to mention, of course, also the whole situation with which connects both sides potentially as well. The last we spoke about with Noah Adedeji Sternberg. Talking about creativity, that would actually maybe be the last one that still has that in that squad, ironically. But at least with the fans, something seems to be broken, even though he has. Okay, maybe I should picture it for the people that haven't really followed it closely. Of course, like Club Brugge would have contacted and then get an agreement with him personally already before they contacted Genk, which is not in accordance to FIFA. I guess to a certain extent is FIFA laws, but to a very big extent, this happens regularly, I think. But at least being in touch with the player, it's still different than having a complete agreement in place, I guess. But this might also still be a case of him being not really at fault. Well, at fault, maybe still he still has to have to give a go, I guess. But I feel like it's also more like an agent's game there, potentially with Kubriya also as well pushing. It's brought Genk also in that situation still in a weird one. I'm bringing him on yesterday as we speak as well for 3 minutes at the fan day of Genk. That was not a tactically or communicationally smart move from Torup. I fear that could have been managed better, but he was there at least. So that's what I also feel like he's showing up, he's performing. He scored in a friendly before as well already for Genk. So he could play it a lot harder still, I guess. And I guess eventually there are these rumors that that transfer will still happen. But Club Brugge have in the meantime also been linked to a lot of other left wingers. I think they are aiming to get 2 anyway. So going back to Club Brugge, but I'm still not entirely certain of if he will actually be one of them. That's one situation to monitor. Like at the back as well, given the current situation, like Sadiq is still there but not playing. So I guess that must signify he is probably one of those bad apples or one of the players that they really want to get rid of. But since they still haven't gotten, I really hope there's still a center back on the planning for the incoming transfer. I'm not entirely convinced it is. There is, but that's really given that situation. Since Mets is only now coming back from injury, so probably not featuring immediately in the first few games from the start. I've been ranting for a few positions here already, and I'm not even done. Actually, so maybe I should be. But left back is also one that worries me. Elouadi is most likely also still going to leave. So the whole defense in general is a big worry for me. The rest, creativity or higher up on the pitch as well, as I touched on a lot already. So a lot of players to get rid of still, and hopefully some extra creativity and some centre backs. That's my wish list for the remainder of this transfer window.
I wonder what Genk's target is privately for the season. Top 4, you would imagine. I think that has to be the target. Whether it's achievable or not, there's another conversation there. I think a lot of pressure on Duro Sinmi. I think, not just because he's, the biggest incoming, transfer from Genk's perspective. I do wonder whether no European football will be helpful on the whole, though. They need a consistent season. Last year was nowhere near good enough. They just, weren't part of the conversation at any level, really, at any point during the season. And that'd be a huge disappointment. So Joris has kind of gone into a lot of detail there about how the squad does need a lot of work. There's a lot of quality there. There's a lot of quality coming through, but, you need a coach who can knit that together and make it work. And I really understand why they've gone for Thorpe. They've gone for that experience, of which he does have plenty. He knows the landscape in Belgium as well. Slight sense of unfinished business perhaps as well. I do think Jess Thorpe needs a good start to the season because of how he left last time. Even if he didn't, lose a game, I think, just from the fan base's perspective, I think just to settle things down and keep everybody together, I think they need a reasonably good start. I will say that now.
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't think I can really add anything to what you guys have said. You also summed it up nicely, and you've kind of rounded it off well, Scott. Aiming for top 4, but I'm not convinced. But I don't know if some of those players can play well, and you've got some of the young guys that can come through. You just don't know. But Thorpe, I just don't know what to expect. I think that's my thing with Genk this season. So could be pleasantly surprised, or could feel Joris's pain. We'll find out either way. Let's move on to Gent. Who've had a typical Gent transfer window, I say. Actually, they haven't signed enough players from. They actually haven't signed. Oh, they signed a couple, 2 players from the Belgian league. So yeah, I thought they were shooing for Ehrenberg, but they didn't sign him. Mohamed Ngom comes over from Grasshoppers. Jose Vergara comes in from the Latvian Westerlo from Auda. He looks really interesting. I think he got 14 goals in 20 games this season in the Latvian top flight. And I don't know if you guys have been watching the joys of Conference League, Europa League qualification, but the Baltic states are doing pretty well. Latvian teams, Lithuanian teams, Estonian teams, they're doing pretty good. And the standard's clearly rising over there. Imagine what they could do with $40 million from Gianni Infantino. I mean, we'd be watching Estonia win the World Cup. That's all I'm saying. This is the most Gent signing ever, though. Laszlo Benes from Union Berlin. This 100% Gent signing because I don't understand it, to be honest. I don't really know what he does. Lars Koeman comes in from Nokia, and then Christian Burgess, which is also a Gent signing. He stays in the Belgian Pro League. I didn't expect him to stay in the Belgian Pro League. I don't know what you guys think, but he obviously comes in on a free from Union. He clearly just loves Belgium so much. And he just wanted to get that little bit closer to Bruges so he could just be that little bit closer to kind of rattling them. So he gets to do that. In terms of outgoings, Mikkel Skoris has gone to Lens. Somehow they've made money. I don't know how everyone keeps making money on Mikkel Skoris. I mean, he's a good player, but I don't think he'd added to his value with that one, but fair enough. Samuel Cotto, he's gone to Stade Lems. We didn't get to see much of Samuel Cotto. Daisuke Okata, he's made his move to Hannover 96, 96, permanent. Lulia Fortuna's gone to Petro Luanda. That's a cool move. That's really cool. He's gone to play in Angola. Hatem S. Sawibi, he actually came from an African side last season. I think he joined from FAR Rabat. He's already gone back out. He's gone on loan to Volos in the Greek league. So Rick DeMille's had the full. He's had a full summer. He's got a youngish squad, average age 24.3. He's got experienced players in there with Christian Burgess. It's a big squad, isn't it, guys? And I think they do need European football to make sure that everyone's going to be happy. Although I did see there was a rumour that linked Max Dean to Millwall, and I was like, if ever a man fitted a club any better, Max Dean in Millwall just would be so good. It'd be so good because Millwall fans would love him. He'd be winding up the opposition team and the opposition fans. Like, it just fit perfectly. But I hope he stays because I think he's due like a good season if he can stay fit here, and I think he could be really important for them. There's players in there that we need to see more of, like Mamadou Soko. Are we finally going to see him realise some of his potential? He would obviously cost a lot of money. There's players that probably need to leave as well that they've wanted to get rid of. Like, yeah, it's a big squad that could do something, but I don't know. Scott, do you have any trust in them doing something? Because it's Gent at the end of the day. And I mean, if you've listened to our podcast enough times, you know exactly what it's Gent means. And if you haven't, you'll find out soon enough, I'm sure.
It means promising a lot, but rarely delivering. Disappointment is something that, you consistently find with Gent. The one thing about the Buffaloes is I think they have a really good coach. Rick de Mel's really good, I think. I think when he went in there, and we talked about this a lot, particularly in the second half of last season after Rick made the move from Charleroi, I think he was probably a little bit surprised by how much work needed to be done. The potential there is clear to see in their infrastructure. They've got a lot going for them. They've got the stadium as well. But I think the squad, Ben mentioned the squad, it's big and it needs a lot of work, and Rick de Mel needs to get more out of the players that are there at the moment, but there needs to be a stronger kind of team unit with the new players coming in, of which they're going to add as well, of course, because they haven't done enough business yet. So can they be more consistent? And that's the key question for me, because the first 10 games or so, possibly even less than the first 10, are really key for Rick de Mel this season, because I don't think they made any real progress in that latter part of the season under him because of some of the issues they were having. So they've needed to move players on and get some players in. Brugge going to Gent is a really interesting one. The Battle of Flanders is going to be really interesting this season. He's going to enjoy getting stuck into that because, Brugge likes a battle on all sorts of levels. And I think he's a really good pickup for them. He brings a lot of things that side is missing: a bit of steel, a bit of grit, a bit of argy-bargy, and just a bit of attitude on different levels. I think
shithousery,
shithousing number one. So that's why I think in lots of ways that was a good signing, because they do need a bit more of that. They're a bit naive at times. Sometimes promise quite a lot going forward, but aren't efficient enough, concede some silly goals. It's a bit balanced for Rick de Mel. I don't know. I mean, top 4 to 6 will be their aim. I do worry for Rick a little bit because I haven't seen enough yet to suggest that they're making any progress. But again, the caveat being we've still got a month before the window closes and a lot can happen in that time. A lot of outgoings potentially, and a lot of new incomers could change the conversation a lot. So I'm really not sure. And that's based more on the past 5 or 6 years of watching them closely and discovering that, they flatter to deceive. And at the moment, I don't see anything to suggest that's going to change yet.
Yeah, some more news around the squad then as well. I've tried to look a little bit at that this time. Not at every club, but here, of course, also for us, important maybe is Tom van den Bulke leaving as a president comms officer. So but apart from that, it's been relatively quiet for that side and for them being them as well. But not that much I can add again as well. Like so many players, that squad is way too big. My main thing there, I guess, is they're way too deep in central midfielders. They've added to that as well already this season, so I'm assuming they will offload someone there. The Lorge might be leaving. I guess there are some rumors there, but that again, talking about creativity. That is already one of their few players that actually brings that as well, despite that squad as well. Of course, there's Kadri still. He has that, but apart from that, I again don't see that much of creativity in that squad despite the numbers. They're also still in that incredible run of what is it now, 13 games that they haven't won, but they won on at least in regular game time. But then they won the penalty series against Genk to get that Conference League tickets, and now they drew 2 times 0-0 and won the penalty series against the Ukrainian side. That unfortunately, I don't mean any disrespect to them, but forgot the name of even as well. But they were good defensively, but these games were not very promising for Gento as well. Even if the opponent is known for their defensive, stability, they really couldn't break them down at all at any point throughout those games. And of course, connected to that, of course, to that streak also, that's now 9 penalty series that they have won in a row. And possibly all with Roof as well, but I'm not entirely certain, but at least a lot of them in the last seasons with him. Okay, that's again a bit of a tangent, of course, but going back to the squad, look, so I also miss a little bit of creativity despite the depth of the squad there. I'm also still wondering if that strike force is good enough, especially behind Dean, or if Dean, like Ben was hinting at, might still be leaving somehow at some point this window. I'm still not entirely convinced they have the numbers. Like with every position, almost they have the numbers, but do they have the quality? That's really the main question across all positions, almost, even, I guess. And in one position, maybe to still highlight as well as maybe the right back as well. They don't really have much depth there, despite they have the players that can move into different positions, definitely in quantity and in quality. Well, hopefully for them as well, of course. With Samasa being out currently as well as an extra hindrance on that position, of course. But just. It's a very Gent squad despite everything as well, and Van der Heijden and Burgess are gonna be so much fun to watch together again. Everyone is really looking forward to that for sure. And apart from that, I mean, it's a decent squad, I would still say, but there's nothing more to say. It's decent, but it lacks the spark. Still, a bit of a higher level Leuven, maybe that's the kind of the Ben reference we can make there, as we will touch on later as well, of course, still, but one of Ben's favorite sides, of course, in mediocrity. And here, of course, the mediocrity is a little bit higher, so I wouldn't call him that, but if you look at the sides that are aiming for the spots they want to be in, maybe then they would be still the Leuven of that bracket.
That's actually quite good. Actually, they are the Leuven of that kind of top tier of Belgian clubs. That's for sure. I just don't know with them. Like, there's Sonka and Omba, kind of those two players that I thought would be good, and they aren't, or they haven't been. And it's like, I think they should be good under Rick de Mil, but they aren't. And the best Rick de Mil kind of football I saw was when he was at Westerlo, and he had Vermaat and I can't remember some of the other players he had. They were all interchanging up front, and they were really dynamic. And I'm like, that's not this team. This team hasn't have that. So what are we doing here? So I like Rick de Mil, but I don't know if this is a good team for him. I don't know. Also, they have to get European football. Might not be behind Ghent, but this next team, I'm all in. I'm all in on Kortrijk. The first of our new teams into the top flight returning. In terms of incomings, Sandro Campbell, we've already mentioned. Love it. Really intrigued to see how he's going to do, getting more game time. Boris Lambert's back, everyone. Is he going to play central midfield? Is he going to play central defence? Who knows? European legend. He comes in for Willem too. Messa too just comes straight back. They basically took a gap year, and he's come straight back to Kortrijk from Standard Liège. Souf Podgoriniau comes in from Maccabi Haifa. Gwydion Koyalupu comes in from Lens on loan. Beveren legend. Loved him at Beveren, so I'm glad to see him in the Pro League. Ken Masau, from Nagoya Grampus, which that's one of my favourite team names. Grampus is just such a great name. Harrison Murray Campbell comes in on loan from Chelsea as well, and I don't think they're done. I think they've got a few more moves to make. Ilan Hurtevent has joined Union. Mohamed Gay has gone to HJK Helsinki. Jonathan Afolabi returns to the Irish Premier League. He joins Shamrock Rovers. Oh, some of these names are hard. Sanad Vilmos Denesh, he's gone to Debrecen. Mohamed Boussadia has gone to US Monastir in the Tunisian League. Karen Himpe has gone to Liège on loan. And Scott, I think the dream is over. Yusuf Shaluk is a free agent, and I don't think he's coming to the Pro League, despite our PR, despite everything we've done to try and make this happen. Shaluk's a free agent, and I think the dream has died, unfortunately. Shaluk is not going to be a Pro League player. Interesting team. I think they've got a interesting head coach as well, and Michael Jonkeri gets them straight back up. Young head coach, only 36, obviously he's played for a couple of Belgian sides. I think they've just got. I think for me, obviously they've got loads of like interesting African players. So I'm all over this. They've got Guadalupe from Central African Republic. They've got Brian Adenani from Madagascar. I think he can play for Madagascar and the Comoros on like two beautiful islands to be able to play for. Who wouldn't want to be able to do that? Sixtus as well. Any man called Sixtus, I think, is worthy of a watch. Just some really interesting players, and then some players that we've just seen forever. Marko Ilic obviously back in goal as well. He's stuck around. So I don't. You guys obviously going to probably tell me I'm being crazy, but I think of all the promoter sides, I think they look like one of the best to me in terms of kind of the squad and the players they've got. Beveren fans might have something to say about that, but we can talk about them and their kind of potentially slow transfer business and strange changes of everything being changed at Beveren. But I like what I've seen from Kortrijk in the transfer window. Whether that can carry over into the start of the season, who knows? Face Club Brugge first, that's going to be quite difficult. But Scott, obviously you watched CPL last year. Where are you at with kind of Kortrijk in terms of what you saw and what they've added?
Well, the interesting thing about Kortrijk is, you were talking about how positive the recruitment has been, and I would actually agree with that. I really like the fact, and this is the thing that I've taken away from Kortrijk over the summer, I really like the fact that Michiel Jonkers actually tried to change the kind of expectations a little bit and demand some higher standards from Kortrijk and not simply say, look, we're going to win a relegation battle and retain our place. He wants them to look up the table and try and push for mid-table. And I really like that. The problem the club has had over the last few years is a lack of real drive and proper leadership. And I think Michiel Jonker and Niels van Est, the sporting director, now have got quite a good relationship. I think they know they need to kind of shift the dial a little bit and change the conversation and kind of almost bring in a degree of a refresh of the culture inside the club. And that's what I find interesting and really, really positive. And it suggests that maybe they will make some progress if some of their plans come off. They've picked up some good players, I think. There's potentially some goals in this side. And at the moment, they're one of the few sides I look at the squad and I don't think, okay, I'm really, really worried for you. So yeah, I mean, positive scorecard, at this stage. And who knows? It would be nice to see a Kortrijk side that, that weren't labouring right down at the bottom of the table. And I think last season being, pretty consistent winners for the majority of the season, losing out to Beveren, obviously, but generally being strong. Can they carry any kind of momentum from that through with these new players? That's the thing to kind of watch out for at the moment. But they've got nothing to fear playing club on match day one, I don't think, and probably come into that game with a little bit more confidence they would do under most circumstances as well.
Yeah, I've got only one position noted, I think, or maybe two, but like right wing, because at least on Transfermarkt, and also, I mean, from what we see, they have like 5 players, I guess, that have as a second position right wing. So like, but not as their first position, either striker or left wing. So okay, if some of those left wings are indeed interchangeable to go to the right, maybe it's less of an issue. I mean, Campbell, I suppose, maybe could do that. Yeah, that's. But yeah, apart from that, like an Ambrose, I don't really see him working there much. It's possible that he features there, but I wouldn't really see that. And apart from that, yeah, left back, I'm also still a little worried because there's also they have Matthew Anderson there. Oh, also want to done much touch on that. Murray Campbell and Anderson would be a great duo to have on the pot. If both of you are unavailable, for example, as well, or just just for a duo interview, who knows? Maybe we should try to get them on if possible, of course. So if you're listening, guys, or anyone at Kortrijk, and that would be interested, that would be that could be an interesting episode for all of us. Of course, Murray Campbell being on loan from Chelsea might complicate things, I suppose, potentially with Chelsea. Maybe not really wanting that. I don't know how much they micromanage these kind of things, though. They might not even know he's still there, actually. But and on the other hand, that could give us some nice insights, for straight insights from these youth academies, of course, as well. So, but okay, that's a personal thing here as well. But yeah, he's the only left back they have us, or at least Anderson is the only left back. Sorry, that's really has that as a first position. Again, a few players that probably can fill in there if needed, but not have it as a first position. And I'm always very wary of these situations, just like at Genk is currently as well. They indeed take occasion, but yeah. They do seem all right for the rest, though. Quite balanced squad, quite experienced. Yeah, I don't see them in much worries. Although we have to see, of course, if everything turns out as it would. But they also have around the club. It's been, as far as I could get, quite stable as well. Why wouldn't it be after promotion? You would say, but there are other sides that we will touch on that might make that statement a bit obsolete. but yeah, that's another topic. But yeah, Koalipo could be a great signing. Campbell at first sight, or in first hearing, seems like the one that could really have his breakthrough season here. I think they will be fine. Even though what I said, by the way, I put them lower in the ranking than I thought, but they're not getting relegated according to my paper.
Yeah, I think they'll be safe. It's nice to see them have a little bit of ambition, like Scott said. I've been sick of what they were doing when they were up here before, and they've actually got a manager and players in place this time, so that's quite nice. Let's go to Mechelen. I realised I was doing so well alternating between Scott and Joris to time this so that Scott would start with Joris would get Genk and then Scott would get Mechelen, but now I've just completely messed it up. So we're going to have to go. I'm just going to have to mess it around even more. Just keep going with Scott. So Joris has to just kind of jump on the trails, but you can have the next two after that for sure. I mean, I don't know how much we're going to be able to say about Mechelen, to be honest. We haven't really done anything. Cedric van Meervin comes in from the S. That's probably the big summer signing. Dennis Plyer joins on a free. Kobe Corbin comes in on a free as well. In terms of outgoings, Halahal, after his World Cup exploits, he goes to Venezia. Again, another one I was like, hey, he's playing at the World Cup. But fair enough, it's worked for him. Venezia, they love just throwing money around there, don't they? I feel like, I don't know, you could have we could probably talk about all the players they bought from Belgium and how little they've done. How much money do you reckon they've given Mechelen in the past couple of months? Because obviously they signed what's-his-face, who I can't even remember anymore. How has he just completely slipped my mind? The big German striker. I don't think he scored many goals since he went over there.
Lauberbach is what you're looking for.
Lauberbach, there he is. Just if you leave, you're out of my brain. I'm sorry. They must have pumped a good 10 million, maybe around that, into Mechelen. The transfer fees are said to. So they're basically keeping Mechelen going for another season. That's very kind of them. Must be a front for someone, who knows. Matis Servais, he gets a move to Millwall. That could be a loss because I thought he was pretty good, actually. Mori Konate did a decent job as well. He's gone to Al Hazim in the Saudi Pro League. Umrabti's left and Hassan Banda has also left, but most people probably forgot that Banda was actually back for his second spell, unfortunately. Scott, you can tell me I'm wrong, but this feels like they are not taking advantage of the decent season they had last year, and they've just kind of hoped that Van der Beek will be able to do it again, but with potentially less.
Well, that was the big question, I think, in a lot of fans' lips. How were they going to approach this summer? Last season, they overachieved. I think everyone agrees about that. It kind of fell away a bit once they'd achieved the big goal in securing playoff one. I don't think they're going to have as strong a season at the moment anyway, unless a lot of things change. They haven't really built upon that, as Ben was saying there. I think there's a strategy at play here that's risky, and that is, clear out some of the players that do have value, see what you can get and then make your move. So I suspect that there's going to be a fair bit of activity yet. Obviously Cervais and Hal, best part of kind of 10 million roundabout thereabouts between those two deals. So there's a little wiggle room there. It'll be interesting to see how much Tom Calloway, Mechelen's sporting director, chooses to go and spend of that. There's certainly work to be done there, I think. It's a well-run club for the most part. We know that, famously so. The debt is going down all the time. They're getting closer to becoming, a self-sustaining club, which is a really, really great thing to be, particularly in a league like the Pro League. That's really important. Praet, good pickup, actually. Good pickup. I think he could add value, particularly to the younger players, obviously, which is part of Tom Calloway's thinking. He can contribute stuff. But yeah, I mean, this is a side who, if they perform strongly at home, which they generally do, they could, mid-table side probably, I think, with some decent additions. A steady approach, I think, is going to be the kind of watchword for this season. I think Fred van der Beest is now vulnerable because I think without some careful acquisitions and a consistent run, which is what they did do last year for the most part, I think they are. Yeah, he's vulnerable for me for lots of reasons. I just hope they don't stick with him longer than perhaps they should they get themselves into a spot of bother, because he's been at the club for a long time. Often it's easy for clubs to give managers a little bit more leeway than they deserve sometimes because of the relationship they have with the club. But at the moment, yeah, still a bit of work to do, I think. Although the new kit, which was released today, is very, very nice.
A bit unfair from Scott, I have to say, maybe to Van der Beest after the season they had last season. And I mean, I'm not supporting to sack a manager. I sometimes do it myself, I guess, but in general, I don't want to support that too much before anything has happened, especially as well. But he's not in a good position anyway, though. Not because of him, but because of the squad that's there and who has left. That's quite some important players there. Praat, of course, joined, but despite all those players leaving, there might be some more outgoings. I would have expected Zekeri to have gone already. Van Brederode might also be going on the out. And looking at that defense, I'm actually very worried. Zekeri is actually the only left back, or first position left back again that they have. But yeah, Marsa has also actually been rumored to with a transfer, I believe, as well. That's would be a centre back list. Yeah, they have some work to do there still. I feel, and despite that, I feel like they actually have a too big a squad currently as well. I think I might have put my document together slightly too early, but I had 30 players before, so maybe now it's 29. I think with. Potentially with Halal now out as well, but nonetheless, that's quite a big squad, but with big question marks at centre back and generally at the back positions, and yeah, up front again we have to see. Boersma has been quite decent, but hasn't really brought a lot of goals. Maybe he just needed some adaptation time as well, of course. So I have to give him that. Raman. brings his goals once in a while as well, but is he going to bring them consistently enough? And then again, indeed, if Van Brederode leaves, that actually would not be. I'm actually more and more worried now. The more I'm talking. Actually, I was not so. I didn't have a great season in mind, not a season like last season for them, but I had put them relatively low in my rankings as well. But I mean, if they have a bad spell, I could actually see some danger even for relegation. That said, I mean, they could also just have a decent season in mid-table. Indeed, they have they still have some quality in that squad for sure, and that just needs to perform consistently enough, and then they might be fine as well. Have to see if Miras keeps the level he had most part of last season, even during last season he had some howlers, especially towards the end still. But that could be a big factor, of course, as well in them actually staying out of trouble. More worried than I thought I would be actually here. Even though it's been around the club, it has been quite quiet. And Van der Vlies indeed staying. Yeah, we'll see if that's indeed the right call, of course. But I do feel like there's anyway more work to do, regardless of his position.
Yeah, I think defensively, you guys are absolutely right. It's funny because I think that Meras is obviously undisputed number one, but Orton de Wolf is the man with the number one shirt. And do you remember when he got called up to the Belgian squad? Like, that feels like a lifetime ago now. Like, now they're trying to get rid of him. I'll bang the Bill Antonio drum all season if he's fit. You know that, because I just feel like he has such a good impact on them whenever he comes off the bench, which I don't think is a bad thing for him. And Rahman as well, like, just off the bench is like his perfect thing to do, because he can just provide that energy and that kind of pest. I think Borsma, and Van Rafflegem, there were some signs there that they were connecting as a strike duo. So I'm not too worried about them going forward. And like you said, if Van Brederode stays as well, like, I think they'll be okay going forward. Midfield, Pryor and Hammer, I think that's going to be pretty solid. I think Hammer's, like, he was one of the better signings from last season. He's got a little bit of shithousery about him, but I don't think it's really been noticed yet. But I feel like he's got that kind of streak in him. He's competitive, and I quite like that. But yeah, the defense is like, I'm not trusting that defense at the moment. Maybe Golic will come in and play some more. They poached him off a couple of other big teams that wanted him, so maybe he's going to come in and do some stuff. I don't know. Terence Kudu had a good season at right back. It depends what formation they play as well. Like, are they going to play like three at the back and stuff like that, which I think they like. I think they liked doing that last year a little bit more with the kind of attacking midfield, kind of right and left midfielders. So yeah, we'll kind of see how that one goes. But it's a really young squad. I think it's 23, and I think that's longer than Cercle's squad, if I remember rightly. I think Cercle's is 23.1. So I mean, it's basically the same thing. The difference is they've got one defender that's over the age of 25, which Cercle don't have. But I think I trust them to score more goals at this moment in time. And I don't think they'll go down, because I just think they can go out and address some of these issues if they want. But like, kind of some of the core players are still there for now, which should do a good job. And there's some young players that could have moments. They love that Halil Ozdemir off the bench, didn't they? Who I was like, I'm not. He seems a little bit too chaotic for me, but maybe he'll have kind of sorted himself out a little bit. Let's move on to one of the other promoted teams. This one, I think, comes with like the biggest asterisks. In like, it's huge. It's like basically takes up the entire screen, because this team could literally be completely different by the time we get to the start of the season. We could talk about some key players for this team that who knows where in the City group they're going to end up, and who from the City group is going to end up coming, which is of course Lommel, managed by Lee Johnson. I mean, that is never something. I never thought I'd see Lee Johnson managing in the Belgian Pro League, but here we are. We had Scott Parker, we've had Lee Johnson, and we had Paul Clement. Like, we've collected some of the more interesting English managers, and then we had Mr. Coleman as well. So yeah, we've had some interesting British managers, safe to say. In terms of incomings, they've got Sean Adewoye in from Fortuna Sittard. Decent signing, 26-year-old central defender like that. That seems like a normal signing for any side. Then we get to kind of, the rest, Sverre Nipan, Norwegian central midfielder, 19-year-old from City. Straight at Apua, 22-year-old winger from Palermo on loan. Nipan on loan as well. Isaiah Dadat Maskol on loan from City. And that's it. So not a lot at all. In terms of outgoing, Sam de Grand, or Sam de Grond, maybe, I don't know. Depends how you want to say it. He's gone to Alkmaar. He had a good season last season, so I think that could be a big loss. Alvaro Santos has gone to Atletico Madrid's second team, I believe it is. I mean, yeah. Filip Stevanovic is a free agent, and Klivet Aguilar is also a free agent. Filip Krijovic is a free agent. On my thing, it says Ruben Seegers has joined the Lommel second team according to Transfermarkt. That I don't know if one of you guys knows anything about that. That seems a bit strange because I feel like he'd surely be quite useful. 28-year-old defender who's obviously played in the Pro League before. So, yeah, we'll try and look into that one a little bit more. But like I said, like I'm looking through this team and there's some players in there that you're like, oh, that's a good player, but like, are they actually going to be here when it gets to next season? And they've also got a couple of players that we've seen before, but like never quite did it. So I don't know. Dries Wolters is an interesting one because he could have stayed in the Pro League, but he went down. He went back down to play for Lommel in the second tier instead. I guess kind of key man is going to be Lucas Skoos. He was their best player last season, I believe. Scott, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that one, but Joris, I'll go to you because you've obviously watched the Pro League a lot longer than the rest of us. Like, when you look at this team, do you think, what is that? Is this kind of like one of the more like, I don't know what this team is because I have no idea what it's going to look like in a couple of months, and we've never seen this in the Pro League before. Like, where it's like it's such a random collection of players.
I have seen it. With Scott's side, Mechelen, when they were almost bankrupt at that time. So, but there were some reasons for that, of course. Then they had to rely on all kinds of loan players, which Lommel, well, they don't have that much room anymore, I guess, especially from Manchester City straight away, because there's a limit of 3 players, I believe, you can loan from the same club. Of course, throughout the whole City group, there might still be something possible. I don't know how the regulations are on that. But I also, first of all, wanted to get a mystery for Ben out of the way. Ruben Seegers is will no longer an extra football player, but stopped last month, and has become team manager. I believe still at Lommel though, but he won't be featuring anymore anyway. That may be clear. That squad is an odd combination of players, of course, indeed, as you already mentioned, and then we'll have to see how it goes. I think I saw it best described by one of the Lommel fans that are one of our, I think, regular listeners as well on Twitter. I think it's Thomas Foods. It might be. If not, then he got a shout out, and then I'm sorry for the Lommel fan that actually did mention it. But like, they're going into the season without, as well prepared as the other sides, because they're also not that prepared, but they're going into the season as the 5th side of the Challenger Pro League. So the side that finished 5th position in the Challenger Pro League last season, which is, of course, not really, a good omen. So I do see them struggling for sure. That said, Nipan is supposed to be a really good signing. If he can fulfill his potential, of course, and then like we also have to see how some of those players that ultimately got that promotion over the line, really we will do in the Jupiler Pro League. Adewoye, I'm not so high on myself, but he has quite a few decent seasons in the Eredivisie behind him now as well. So I'm sure he's matured as a player from the times at Genk's academy. I mean, it might be a good signing in the end, a decent signing in the end. And then for the rest, big question marks for sure. The Grant leaving, I think that's how you pronounce it, since he's like, has dual nationality in the Dutch parts taking over there than the Dutch-Belgian player. But that could be a big loss, of course, because he gave them a lot of assists last season. Was it double numbers at least? I don't know, double digits. Anyway, I'm not entirely certain how many in total, 11 or 12, I believe. But and then some of those more experienced players like a Sanchez, will he be good enough to play enough of time? I think he could be really useful still, but he will definitely need his moments, choose his moments, and well, they will need to choose the moments to play him as well, of course. But yeah, I don't see in this current squad. I don't see enough quality. I think to stay in. But I could still be proven wrong as well. One of the positions that I'm really a little worried about is indeed the striking position as well, especially behind Sanchez maybe, or maybe more taking the first 60 minutes before Sanchez, however they want to fill it in, or with different formations, of course. But yeah, in the left wing, I also had marked down that that's there. I think that could be fine because they also have a lot of players again that could play on both wings, but most of them seem to prefer the right wing nonetheless. But yeah, that doesn't necessarily need to be an issue. And of course, we'll have to see if Vangsa can actually do something at the Jupiler Pro League level as well. Now, one of Scott's favorite players, who at Gent, unfortunately, could not really bring anything. But that's been a few seasons. And, well, it's always a weird story with him anyway. Maybe he won't be there for that long anymore either. Who knows?
Such an intriguing side to watch, Lommel are going to be. Really, they are. I mean, Ben mentioned the word asterisk, and I think that's a good one to use here. Lommel have far greater access to resources and recruitment networks than the majority of clubs in the league. How they work that is going to determine, how they do. They haven't done that much business yet. I never expected them to spend much because, frankly, they didn't need to. They were just going to need to work the system. That sounds incredibly cynical, doesn't it? But in a way, it kind of is. Work their networks, which are greater than most of the other clubs, as I was saying. You can see a situation where if things are looking a bit ropey come the winter as well, then, they might bring a lot in at that point. Naipan, by the way, is probably my signing of the season insofar as he's the one I'm most interested in seeing develop to see if he can kind of do his stuff. He promises a lot, comes with a big reputation, partly because of the big transfer fee that Manchester City played, but I'm really looking to see if he's the real deal and whether coming to Belgium for a season in the Pro League is going to help him kind of kick on. But yeah, how Lommel and Jeffrey Van Ass, the sporting director there, works the City Football Group's recruitment network is going to be key. And they also they're going to be one of the great away days this season for fans as well. Great experience. Who doesn't want to go to a stadium effectively in a forest? Perhaps only second place to Duden Park, which is in a park, of course, for those who haven't been. So, lots to look forward to Lommel's addition. I share Joris's fears, though. Generally, there are reasons to be worried, but from Lommel's point of view at the moment, simply staying in the division and consolidating is going to be the aim.
Yeah. I have my feelings on like multi-club ownership and stuff like that, and how teams can kind of potentially just get lost in that system. And I feel like, judging by where they are at the moment, I feel like they've been lost in the system because are you just limiting yourself to only signing players from that system? I don't know, because they've obviously signed Adewoyu, obviously from Fortuna Sittard, and a couple of other players maybe from other places. But it's just like, I don't even know what they do. I don't really understand what the game plan is, what the idea is, how like they're going to stay in the league. Just like your friend saying, or our listener, saying about them being the fifth place team in the CPL, but it's like, but they're not, because they were in the CPL with one of the biggest wage like kind of expenditures available. So it's like you weren't the fifth. You were like, you should have been one of the best teams in the CPL with what you had at your kind of level. But the players that got them up weren't from that, necessarily from that group. That could just be me projecting something that isn't true, but I'm looking at like the more experienced players. And then someone like a Lucas Skoos, who, look at his numbers, very, very good in second division football. And I'm talking about like through his career in terms of like he moves to the Eredivisie with Heracles, scores 2 goals in 2 seasons in the Dutch top flight goes into the second tier, 10 goals, 5 assists. Like, bang, bang. That's like, he's good at that level, but is he good at making a step up? They've obviously got, old man up front in terms of Ralph Sajointas as well. And it's like, are they going to score enough goals? Like, Tom Rayners obviously did really well for them last year, but we saw him at Beerschot, didn't really do anything in the top flight. So I think this may just be projecting my kind of my previously held kind of views about this as like being this with the City group and kind of, I have my feelings about Manchester City's owners and stuff like that. So this all kind of comes into it, and I appreciate that is part of like my stance on this. But I feel like you've got this like promotion, not with really trying, like they've managed to do it because the players have like just come together to get it done with Lee Johnson. It's like, now what are you doing? You don't really seem like you're trying to do anything with it or take advantage of being in the top flight of the Pro League. That is a really good place to develop players, to be honest. So yeah, they are one of my favourites to get relegated at the moment, like quite comfortably. Them and there's another team in my bottom two, and it's not Leuven. It's definitely not Leuven. There's another team who have done the complete opposite to us. They've signed every Tom, Dick, and Harry available. They've been the most active side, which we'll get to them at some point. But the next team is Leuven. I know everyone's been waiting for my yearly Leuven rant. I mean, let's go through this. Lucas Strakomi, he's been signed permanently, which he was all right. He had a decent couple of weeks, I think it was, and then kind of disappeared a little bit. Emmanuel Adai comes in from Karabag. He's actually got some assists under his belt, so maybe he could create something. Depends if there's going to be a striker there for him to create. Danny van den Heuvel, already mentioned. I'm guessing that's if Leeson leaves, he's just going to slot in as the number one, which there is rumours that Leeson's going to leave. Timmy Simons is the new head coach as well. They've gone with that. Jamie Lawrence comes in from Tirol in the Australian Bundesliga. Shin Yamada comes in from Celtic on loan. We'll obviously get Scott's opinion on him. Takuya Ogiwara comes in from Urawa Reds as well. It seems these two both on loan. It seems in the last couple of years, OH11 have been like, Sint-Truiden have done really well with Japanese players, so we're now going to try and sign Japanese players. So I feel like their whole transfer business is always like a step behind everyone else, potentially. But some of these Japanese players have been good, but most of them will stay for a year and then leave, which is just the classic case. Takuma Ominami has left. He's gone back to the J-League. Casper Terho didn't really work for him. He's gone to Sparta Rotterdam. Yusuf Mazivs has left. That makes me very sad. He's gone to Colorado Rapids. Maxence Prevost, he's gone to Dunkirk. Tia Radelet, he's gone to RAL, one of the 500 players they've signed. Takahiro Akimoto, another Japanese player. I'm pretty sure they signed him last season as well. Back to the J-League. Solly Kaba's gone. He's gone to the UAE Pro League. Matthew Mertens is out. He's a free agent. So, I don't know, guys. I feel like the team's just kind of the same, but it's not the same, if you know what I mean. Like, they've just kind of swapped some players in and out, but it doesn't thrill me as per usual. I'm not like excited about Leuven under Timmy Simons. I'm hoping he can prove me wrong, but I said to you guys that the fact that Thibaut Vleertinks is still there going into his 7th season, and he's only played the most league games he's played in a single season is 29, and I'm just like, you re-signed him in 20. Like, last summer, you gave him an extension. Like, why are you giving him an extension? Like, move on. Like, come on. Like, he's never getting better. He's 28 now. Like, this is who he is. Like, why is he still there? It's Leuven, isn't it? It's saying like it's Gent, it's Leuven. Maybe they'll surprise me, but they'll finish in mid-table, or because of the way the league goes, maybe finally they'll have a real wake-up call and be really involved in a relegation scrap and not be able to escape it with the skin of their teeth to get out of the bottom playoffs. And if they do, maybe they'll finally change kind of how they approach things. I don't know. But yeah, don't know where the goals are coming from. I don't know where the excitement's coming from. And that's my opinion on Leuven. I don't know which one of you wants to jump in after that. But if any of you got a different opinion, you think I'm being overly harsh on them, feel free.
Not really. Sorry, I'll take it there for a second. But not too long, to be honest. Not really. I think Lawrence could be a cool signing, at least on paper it is. But there, I share the worries about the striker. And I would also add left back and right wing positions, and generally, much like it seems to become a topic for me, like creativity with Mazis leaving as well. That's really something that needs to be addressed, and that we all know that's not going to be addressed. Of course, there's Verlinde and Balikwisha, so to a certain extent, maybe I'm exaggerating that part. But yeah, the striker position is really, very worrying as well. And for the rest, it's just a mess squad as usual, I guess. So I'm not gonna waste too much words extra on it. At least on it. Yeah, it also looks like King Power now has a bit more focus on their main club, I guess, being in big trouble as well. So like, there's not that much coming from there either. It seems maybe that's just a feeling, but that's. Yeah, I actually have them surprisingly high on my list, but that's basically because I had forgotten about them and I had to fill in a few spots of my infamous list by the end of this episode. But well,
this is an interesting one because again, they're another club who probably is safe not to make too many predictions about. I've been on record before as saying Timmy Simons, I'm not as big a fan as a coach, never been that impressed by much of his work. Very different player to a coach. They've done a fair bit of business early-ish, I think. Now, is that because they're being proactive and they're going to continue to be that way for the next month, or is it because they've basically done their business now, which it might be the case as well. So it's going to be interesting to see. They've brought in some interesting players. The Japanese players are both very good technically, as you would expect. They may end up at Sint-Truiden, if they prove their worth at Leuven. They'll certainly have lots of compatriots to spend time with and see during the course of the season as well. I think if Leuven finish anywhere in the kind of 10th to 14th position, they'll have had a stonkingly good season by their standards in recent years. Let's see if they bring anybody else in, because they've been more active up till now than often they are. Maybe they recognise that they have to have a strong start. They've not started really, really badly in some recent years. It's just fallen off a cliff round about the halfway point in the season for them as well. So if they can start reasonably positively like they've done over the last few years, then that 10th to 14th might be achievable for them.
Yeah, I mean, since they returned to the Pro League in 2020, they finished 11th, 11th, 10th, 12th, 11th, 12th. Like, it's just, you're just there making up the numbers. Please, I pray they have an exciting season. I'll enjoy watching them and stuff, because I just feel, I've said it a million times, the potential is there, but I think maybe Joris is right, even worse this year because of the direness of Leicester City, that, they're not even being looked at. And what's his name? The guy that was meant to be the transfer guru or whatever when he got promoted. Again, as far as I'm concerned, he's done nothing to really impress me. If I just don't know how much is Sespa guy, that's the one. We'll move on to LeuvenLa Louvière, who are the only side that they've just gone crazy. Like, they've just gone absolutely bonkers over there. It's like, it's kind of like a football manager sort of thing, where it's just like all your players are just kind of out of contract at the end of the season, so you just sign in everyone. But then you come back to the save maybe like a month later, and you've forgotten that you've already signed these players. So you just sign a couple more players because you think you haven't filled the slots for what you need. And then you get to start the season, suddenly like 20 players have turned up. So it's going to take me a while to get through this, but we'll get there. Mustafa Issa, Nigerian striker, comes on from Christiansund. Elias Filet, striker, comes in from FC Alau in the Swiss second tier. Matthias Kovacs comes in from MTK Budapest. Mamavade comes in from Lustenau in the Austrian Bundesliga. Patrick Nkoa comes in from Eintracht Braunschweig. Siad Gorville comes in from Boulogne. Quentin Beniat comes in from Charleroi. Tia Radlett comes in from Leuven. Ismaila Koulibaly comes in from Lask. Shaquille Delos comes in from Grenoble. Thiago Pereira Cardoso comes in from Mönchengladbach. Mehdi Buchmir comes in from Charleroi. Anas Tajarat comes in from Anderlecht. I mean, that's just, I'm going to have to take my halo after reading through all of those. In terms of outgoings, Maxime Massounev goes to Wisła Krakow. Lucas Hudak goes to Rochefort. Jordi Leongola goes to Sheffield Wednesday. Dario Benavides goes to FC Dinamo Bucharest. Celestine Dislevel goes to Veton. Owen Masters is a free agent. Mathieu Roux is a free agent. Tieno Diallo is a free agent. Rafael Ayongo has retired. And Tristan Lucio is a free agent. End of last season, I was like, this team's going down next year. Just because of the way they finished, they were awful. They've since changed manager. Ed Still's come in. This has got to be his last chance in the Pro League, hasn't it? Like, surely this time it's going to work. Surely. I don't even know where to start with this team. I honestly don't. And that's mainly because I don't know who half the players they've brought in are. And I'm just going to be honest with you. Like, there's too many times I was saying to Scott earlier about, you always see like a player will join a club, maybe from like an unknown league, and some random person on social media will be like, yeah, love this player. He's one of the best players. I've known about this guy for ages. He's going to be fantastic. And it's like, no, you haven't. Like, don't lie to us, buddy. Like, no one has enough time in the day to know who all these players are. This could be amazing. They could have just signed some incredible players for all we know, that they're just going to completely turn their squad around. Issa's going to bang goals in. Fillet's going to bang goals in. Fillet was actually wanted by a number of other clubs, apparently. So, yeah, maybe in there. They've got these guys on loan.
Good agent, probably.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you just don't know these days. It feels a little bit, and the comparison is very different. It feels a bit RFC Sarang in that final year when they just kind of start grabbing people from random places and stuck them all together and hope for the best. I give them more credit than that. I do think, and we know they have an actual kind of scouting structure in place, and they are looking for value in places that people aren't always looking. So I'll give them the credit there. But it just seemed a lot of new players, doesn't it? Like, this is a lot of new players with a new manager, which might be a good thing, because it may be that they got to the end of last season, they looked at it and they were like, this isn't going to work. We've got to just go a little bit kind of nuclear on this and bring in a load of new players while keeping a couple of the key guys around. But I don't know. It doesn't feel like it should work. But I'm interested to see what you guys think, because I just watched the players coming in and I was just like, whoa, this is something else.
Well, they have been by far the most active side. Who haven't they signed? That's probably the obvious question. I mean, to be fair to them, that kind of turnover normally doesn't work for lots of reasons, no matter how good your T1 is. But I think the balance of probability is that it isn't going to work. I mean, they're trying something fresh, whatever it is. There's a real culture change inside the club. They've lost a coach who's been there for his entire life, or what feels like that in footballing terms, something that's incredibly unusual. Ed Still's come back via a less than 6 month spell at Watford. Surprised he lasted that long. More to do with Watford than Ed, to be honest. Interestingly, Ed was working with Karim Belhassin on his staff at Watford as well. It'll be interesting to see if he crops up at Ral at some point during the season, with Ral obviously being a Walloon club and having a relationship with Ed as well. Of course, Ed's been also off working with his brother since he was last in Belgium as well at Lens. Can Ed still have a real success story? As Ben was hinting at, that's the undercurrent that everyone is kind of watching to see if it kind of clicks for him. I like Ed, actually. I don't think Ed's a bad coach. I think, he had a good time at Charleroi for a while before it all fell apart, which it does for all coaches at some point. He's picked clubs, or perhaps clubs have picked him, that haven't necessarily been the best fit as well. He's gone into some pretty dire situations and been expected to pull off miracles. He's starting with a clean slate at Ral to a certain extent, and that's kind of what's interesting about this, really, and it's worth kind of holding on to that for the moment. I really don't know what to expect at all. I think if he can get something going with him, then I think he could surprise if he can get these players to gel. I would worry as a coach, no matter who I was or how good I was at trying to effectively put an entirely new team together, an entirely new squad. Never mind a kind of starting 11. It's a big ask. And, as we've been saying about so many of the other sides, consistency is going to be important. And I worry for them if they have a dodgy start or they get themselves into a rut. Because Ral started really poorly last season. It took them a while to kind of find their feet and be competitive on some level. And they can't really afford to do that again because the system has changed this season, as we're saying at the beginning. So who knows? They're a bit of an enigma at the moment.
Yeah, not that much to add again as well. Of course. Edward still had a little short spell as an Anderlecht head coach, as well as he's as a caretaker manager to get the timeline straight for Scott's Lance adventure. That was still before that, but nonetheless, of course, it was not it was anyway going to be a temporary position, is what the feeling was, and he chose to make it that anyway at that time. Which also he had 2 games there and he lost both of them, of course, as well. So he's not a good omen for a club. That's maybe what you could say if you're of this kind, believing in this kind of things. But and also around the club, of course. Yeah, they mentioned the scouting. We had a nice talk when David Verwilge was still there, of course, with him, or at least Scott had that talk. But yeah, he has left, and also Frutos has left. So like the one who was working closely with. So we also have to see how much of that is still there. Given the amount of transfers, you could also, and maybe also with Edward still, you might presume that there might be some more agents influence there as well. So like looking at certain Bayat clans, but that's coming out of. I haven't really researched it. Not necessarily coming out of nowhere, but I haven't really researched it. So this still could be something that I'm just throwing in the air here. But we all agreed, nonetheless, regardless of that they did need a big overhaul of the squad anyway by the end of the last season, and at least we have to give them that, regardless of the nature of how it came together. They have done that. But yeah, they don't have a fall anymore, and that's already a big worry as well. Afrier as well. At times, maybe more a few games, but still made a difference in a few games, which was enough for last season. But for this season, it might not be. So yeah, much like you guys, I also have big relegation worries for them. Admittedly, again as well, though, just like Ben said, many of those players are a bit of unknown quantities, so maybe they are actually surprisingly good. That's something we need to see. Tajovar, for example, has been okay at the futures. Will he be able to bring it? He was not having a future at Anderlecht. Taking him there, I'm sure it still also knows him from there as well, actually, from his short spell, or his spell at Anderlecht anyway, as well. Bukamir didn't really impress much at Charleroi, but he could be a decent Jupiler Pro League player still, maybe. But I'm just naming a few names here, of course. The rest are really of the signings are really unknown quantities. I might be forgetting one, but I'm not going to the squad list, not so much. So yeah, Fall lost. Okay, of course, hopefully it's a very short injury, but also missing Peano in goal for the beginning of the season. Yeah, I mean, often a good start could still create some momentum to maybe pick up some points and be safe early enough. But that's, I mean, we don't know the quality of those other goalkeepers, of course. They have tried to tackle that as well. They have brought players in even on this position. But Peano has really been their best player together with Fall. A good striker and a good goalie is what often is enough to even fight for titles in certain conditions. But definitely to be able to reach your objectives, staying in the league. That might be missing now. Of course, indeed, you have to see. Filet might be a good striker. He has a good goal scoring record, but at which level? Can he make the step up? That's the question. And that's indeed something we will have to wait and see. Not that much that that we can add on that, I suppose, before we move on to the next site.
So let's move on to Antwerp next up. A lot of change at Antwerp, and very kind of them to announce a new manager just as we were about to sit down and record this. Better late than never, but Marvin Comper is coming in. Scott will have a Substack on him, so we'll leave Comper to the Substack. We've already plugged it a couple of times. We'll plug it again. Why not? In terms of incomings, and they've had to do a little bit of work, and they probably still need to do a little bit of work, that's for sure, like kind of other teams, but they did lose a lot of key players. Carlos Mejia, young Ecuadorian winger, comes in from NK Kruštocija in Croatia.
The weirdest transfer of all summer, I can tell you that already, but...
yeah. Is that team that's like set up to like farm players over and
stuff? Like they're very lower league, and like well, I mean, they're not even hiding their shadiness basically. So that's
it's like
transfer.
It's kind of like they're like these. It's kind of like a front, isn't it? Just to kind of make a load of money because you just bring in these kids from abroad. But hey, apparently, a couple of million going their way. Maxime Bussy, he comes in from Stade Reims on a free. It could be quite good. Michael Frey is back, everyone. I, for one, am delighted to see the big bald bastard back in the Pro League.
But is he going to paint some pictures again? For those of you who don't know, Michael Frey he likes to do a lot of oil painting in his spare time. Apparently, he's not bad at it either. You know, I have some inside knowledge from somebody who has some of his paintings from during his time at Beveren. So you know, he's an arty guy off the football pitch.
He like genuinely, I would be scared of him on the pitch. Like, he is a terrifying man. But the fact he does oil paintings is just beautiful and wonderful at the same time. It's just that like amazing thing. But yeah, I'm glad to see him back. If he can hit the heights he hit when he was here previously, who knows? I remember me and Scott were like, he should be playing over Vincent Janssen back in the day, and then Vincent Janssen became quite a key player.
That's the whole irony of it all, I guess. It actually did. Like,
he's back.
He had to go for his replacement, and now he's replacing that replacement straight away again.
So funny. Swings and roundabouts, full circle moment. Koki Ando, 18-year-old Japanese winger, comes in from Mito Hollyhock. That's probably not how you say that, but that's a cool name. That is a cool team name. Lewis Nar comes in from Diamond SSC in Ghana. I presume they're one of those kind of like academy sides that aren't a front like the Costija guys. Ibrahim Salah literally just got announced as we started recording as well. He comes in from Basel on loan. Could be a good sign, and intrigued to see with him because he left without having done much, and he hasn't really done much since, but he's kind of bounced around France a bit. It's gone to Basel. They have got a purchase option on that, so yeah, interested to see if they decide to pick it up. But I feel like that's actually could be quite a smart signing in terms of a player with Pro League experience who's got a point to prove, and he's not a teenager because they're quite a young-looking team this year. Outgoings, quite a few. Zina van den Bosch for a free to Union. That's a bit of a stinger, especially because they didn't get any money really for him. Vincent Janssen, like we said, he's gone. He's gone to Portland in the MLS. Reported as his long-term dream of joining the MLS, and I was like, that's okay. Is it for the football? Probably not. But apparently he's got a house out there, so he probably just wants to get out there. Jelano Kirk, he's gone to Erzurumspor in the Turkish Super League. I mean, if you told me when Kirk was going to leave, if you told me a likely destination, I'd have been like, that man is going to Turkish football. He's just got the Turkish football vibe about his career. Dennis Pratt, we've already mentioned, gone to KV Mechelen. Kiki Kouyate's gone. What a shame. No more bicycle kick clearances from him. He's gone to Al Khalij in the Saudi Pro League. Kobe Goban to KV Mechelen, we've already mentioned. Glenn Bilge has gone on a free. And guys, huge moment. Bjorn Engels has left. You've probably forgot he was still there. I think he's been there he's almost been there the entirety of the podcast, hasn't he? But I feel like he has made barely any appearances for Antwerp. So someone wants to bring up how many appearances he's made. He hasn't played for 3 or 4 years. Which is a shame because he was actually all right when he was fit. He just unfortunately was never fit, and he could have been a really important player for them. So yeah, interesting times, I think, with them. A young squad again, 23.2 is the average age. This is kind of what Overmars wanted, wasn't it? He wanted to have kind of this young team that is going to win the league in a couple of years and stuff. But I think I remember saying last year that there's no way that that's going to happen unless you strike lucky within a single season, because these guys are going to get picked up. But there's lots of young talent, lots of interesting players to watch, with like someone like Jeffrey Hermans and Michael Fry in there as well. I without knowing too much about Compa and kind of what to expect from this team, like what's the goal, I guess? Like, is it to get a European ticket, or is it just to have a better season than last year and have some kind of internal progression and look like they're going somewhere?
Well, difficult to answer this. I think Antwerp are going to be okay. I don't really worry about them. If I'm honest, the most important thing is the ownership issue has now been settled. The certainty with that was going to be the thing that I think defined the season. So if that was going to drag on, then everything else was going to drag on to their detriment as well. So although they're having to chase their tail now, making a late appointment, they can kind of finally get on with it. Some of the players they brought in, I think, are okay, which is why I think they'll be all right. I think Salah's a good pickup. I liked him last time he was in Belgium. Mark Overmars was talking today about an interesting phone conversation he'd had with Big Hein, all about what he was like to work with and, what he brings to a squad. So that was interesting. On Marvin Compar, I think that appointment kind of took everybody by surprise, including me slightly. But here's the thing. I've met Marvin Compar a number of years ago during that strange 6-month period that he had at Celtic in Scotland. I was at Celtic Park the night that he signed for Celtic. He was doing some press photos, I think, for Celtic's comms team. I was at the ground early. I went over, had a little chat. We were chatting for 20 minutes. Really nice guy, knows his football. Is going to bring he's a big disciple of Ralph Rangnick's, actually. Somebody else who Mark Overmars had a phone call with over the last couple of weeks to sell him on Marvin Compar, who's worked with Ralph Rangnick at a number of clubs in his career as well. So expect some kind of Red Bull model. He was very honest about that today at his press conference as well. High intensity, a high line. A system that, has worked for a lot of Belgian sides. So I think that could work here. It's his first senior coaching role. He says it isn't really, because he was interim head coach at Lokomotiv Moscow when he was in Russia with Ralph Rangnick for a little while. So to be fair, it's probably his second, but it's his first proper one where he's going to be the main man. So I think they're going to be all right. I think they've got the main things kind of settled now, and they're looking forward to just getting on with it. Mark Overmars talking today at Compar's press conference about there being a kind of 2-year project ahead of them now, where they're going to try and build something over the next couple of years. And they've factored in missing out on Europe this season. So they're going hard for top 4, which is fair enough. But accept that might be out of their reach this coming season. I feel quite relaxed now. They've got things in place. I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing how he does. Actually, I think, although it took me by surprise, the Compar appointment, I like his background. He's been at some big clubs and some interesting clubs, and worked with some really interesting figures in the game as well. So I think he's got a lot to offer a lot of these young players.
Yeah, definitely young players as we can see as well, especially at central midfield, for example. There's no players over the age of 21, so that's ridiculous, and that's could be good. Could also turn out bad. Who knows? No experienced heads there. Yeah, also still worrying a little bit that they get Vrijburg. He has scored the total of 10 goals since he left at Antwerp, which is, only double what he did in one game for Antwerp before, though, to maybe turn my argument around already before. But that's in 3.5 years, that's not a large amount of goals, of course. Also given the background coming back as well, like he was in constant struggle of trying to get out of Antwerp and not getting out before he left, and now coming back. Yeah, I guess that also says a bit about how his career has gone since then, unfortunately for him. But maybe he can turn it on. But if he doesn't, then I'm still worried about who's going to score the goals. And yeah, I just gave some arguments why he actually might not be that one as well. But yeah, maybe someone will step up for that, or some of the youngsters will start to perform for that. So I'm a bit more worried. Coming back to Ben's question about what the goal is, well, that was also addressed this at the press conference. So like, it's a bit vague, I guess, but like, do better than last year. So yeah, that's not a high bar. So I guess staying in is actually enough, since like you don't have all those playoffs anymore. So I guess it doesn't really matter where they end up. Just like supposing that internally they will go for European football one way or another way. I suppose in that sense to generate some more money, because of course they indeed have new owners now, a new ownership, but and there's some uncertainty done there, but it's still also a curious model with a lot of people involved. So like how well will that go? Will they be well aligned? Is every position there? Is the pecking order in that consortium put well in place? In theory, into the front for now, of course it is, but is it actually the case, and will that stay that way as well? Is yet another question. So many, the whole squad left really on a free outside of a few youngsters indeed. So it is worrying. It could be a good building moment as well, but I don't see like a big role for them this season outside of maybe a singular game, of course, against someone would at the bottom or at the top, of course, but no over the season storyline with them, to be honest, that goes anywhere exciting, let's say.
Yeah, I mean, the central midfield thing I didn't even notice until I just had a look, and I was like, oh my god, yeah. I think Jules Ahoka is their oldest, he's 20. Which is mad. Although, of course, I'm hoping by the end of this...
There was this rumor of Goudelje that they're interested in him, of course. That would bring a lot of experience in that position, of course. But also, that would be very costly. So I still... I mean, yes, they have new owners, but it's not that they're... Like, they also mentioned that here. Like, it's not that they're sitting on a mountain of gold now. So that it's not that their complete financial worries are gone now, but... so they have their limitations. So I'm not sure if that actually then would be the wisest investment in that sense. But indeed, the complete polar opposites. Difficult position anyway, though, that they're in for recruiting.
100%, yeah. No, I think I'm even looking at his list, and there's a player I really like, Yusuf Hamdawi. Like, we saw a bit of him last season. He was really, really exciting. But he's listed as central midfield, and I wouldn't put him as a central. I'd say he's a bit more forward playing, attacking midfield. So yeah. You do need someone in there to do the dirty work, and that's what they've done pretty well in the last couple of years, is to kind of sign those players that can do that. I mean, Jeffrey Heremans might be able to drop into central midfield if you really want him to do it, but I think they probably do need to kind of shore up that spot. But I think outside of that, there are interesting players. Like we saw a bit of Gerard van der Plas last season. I'd like to see a little bit more of him as well. We've mentioned Salah. They've got some like good pros as well, like Thibaut Sommers, Dan Foulon, Heremans have already mentioned. Nozawa looked pretty good in goal. He's been linked with a couple of moves, but hopefully he can stay. Boosie as well as a signing. I think like defensively, if they start with a back four, but the starting back four are okay. It's the depth that isn't there behind it that's the real kind of concern. But that's kind of true for their entire squad. So interested to see, they've got some stuff to do, and it's like whether, like you said, Joyce, whether they could do it. Scott mentioned Frey and Beveren owners and oil paintings, so let's go to Beveren, SK Beveren. I would say they're back, but technically they're not back because this is a new Beveren with a different name. It's not Varzan Beveren anymore. This is SK Beveren, taking the kind of the old name of the former team. We won't get into that. If you want to read up about that, there's plenty written about it, and it's very interesting. The other team still does exist. Anyway, let's get on to their transfers. Not a lot, to be fair to them. Cheikh Conde, he comes in on a free transfer from Venezia, central midfielder. Leandro Curavita comes in from Standard Liège. We obviously saw a fair amount of him last season. That, I think, could be a decent signing. He showed some moments, and I think for where Beveren are potentially going to be, I think he could be a good little pickup. Dominic Thompson comes in from Kilmarnock. and Milan Schutter comes in from Hoogstraten. In terms of outgoing, probably the big one, Bo Royce, has gone to Hearts. Jannes van Hecker's just gone to Nachtbleder. Dylan Dassey's gone back down to the Challenger to Liège. Hussein Ertuk has gone to Patro. And a couple of players have returned from their loan spells. Change of manager as well has happened there. So there's been like a fair amount of changes. It feels quite hard to place what Beveren are going to be doing this year, because you always hope that like if a team comes up, they'll stick with their manager, and then you kind of have an idea of what's going to happen. But changing manager and all that, it just seems a little bit kind of all over the place. But we did mention last year how they've had quite an experienced side, so they've got a lot of Pro League experience in there, which could help any new manager anyway. A couple of players interesting. Yo Margarita obviously had a great season last year, so it'll be interesting to see how he gets on. A couple of defensive players who obviously know the league as well. So they've got experience in places that you probably want them to have experience in, which I think could be quite useful. But yeah, Scott has obviously seen a lot of them, but I went to Scott last time, so I'm going to have to go to Joris on this one. Joris, what do you think of Beveren? Do you think they need to make some more signings? Are there any positions that you're like, actually, I think that might be an issue?
My mind is very much split on this one, going here and there the whole time. Like, I'm not convinced that Schutter is the Reus replacement in goal, so I do feel like that's still a position they might still need to address more. Or maybe, I don't know the others either, so I can't judge. Maybe they believe in some of the other goalkeepers already in there. They're quite thin on center back, I would also still say, so I would also expect some movement there maybe still. And yeah, then the main thing, that I feel like there's the risk of being too much of a Challenger Pro League side still. But on the other hand, it's a squad full of experience that they promoted with. But then going back to my other argument, yes, I had this conversation in my head, so sorry for that. Yes, I'm a madman. But like for some of them, for this experienced player, might it be the year too many, and especially to step up again, because of course it's a different level they need to get adjusted to again. And then again, there's of course always that option of like that squad was so consistent in the Challenger Pro League, and they're keeping that squad more or less together, not fully, but more or less, and adding some talent there. Yeah, would there still be that newly promoted side bounce that will be in their benefit, in their favor? Yeah, to be honest, as a sum, I see a lot of sides that have more issues than them, so I don't see big trouble for them. But it's also, again, one of those sides, like I wouldn't be fully surprised if they completely miss their start, that would really be harmful for them and drag them into a slop for the whole season, with a positive or a negative outcome at the end. Of course, don't have the glass ball for that, but I feel like, yeah, mainly it is indeed a bit like with Lommel. It's still a bit of the Challenger Pro League squad, but this, of course, in comparison, was a squad that went undefeated in that Challenger Pro League. So they come in with potentially being that upper level, that upper hand, maybe a level that is maybe or was already last year, that's bottom half of the Jupiler Pro League level. That you would assume that. So yeah, of course, also there around the club some rumors, Bolt or the owners at least wanting to sell, but then don't find an owner. The CEO left nonetheless. Yeah, of course they kept the squad together, but not the manager as well for that Challenger Pro League side. Another factor that could play in. Yeah, I mean, they replaced Redek with who himself was, of course, relatively inexperienced, but with Tim Bakes, who is also, especially as a head coach, as a real manager, not an assistant manager, is quite inexperienced. So I have some doubts there, especially since I also just see like he was Bob Peters' own assistant at Helmond Sport, so like he's really going for his own network. That goes well until it doesn't go well anymore. So until it doesn't, so that's hopefully for them not the case here. But of course, I can't say anything substantial on him either, of course, but just this background factors feel like a bit like to me, so like that might not be ideal. It went well last year. I know there's the in Bob we trust saying among the fans of the SK Beveren since last season, but there's still that big sense of irony in that also when they say that. So that's let's see how that goes longer term. Of course, bringing in someone that you knew from before could also be beneficial in more like profiling of players and so on, and what you really want and expect. So that could also work in their favor. But I'm always skeptical with such things. That's the main thing that made me more on me than on them. And of course, I want to also say there's another English speaker joining, of course, in Dominic Thompson. So maybe another one that we can hope to get on the pod if we ever land an interview with the player, which we still are hoping for to get that first one. Maybe let's try to get that as a goal for this season for us, as well as going to Beveren. That's all, because I think that's also something that's been promised a bit too long already by now. But we'll have to see if that one will be feasible, of course. But it would be nice if we could manage.
That visit's about 5 years overdue. I think we still get asked about that. It's still in the radar, out in the ether somewhere. Beveren make me a bit nervous, if I'm honest. Similar issues to Antwerp, albeit on a kind of different level. So the ownership issue of Bolt obviously being the owners, but then Bolt not wanting to be the owners in negotiations to sell, withdrawing from those negotiations not that long ago and saying we're going to get on with it, meant that really there was this kind of inertia around the summer window for them. They've brought in a few, but yeah, I mean, I think it's a bit risky to weigh too heavily towards the majority of that squad last season that did so well, because Joris was saying this is a step up. It's, less time in the ball, more pace, it's more physical. There's a number of different elements tactically which they're going to have to get their head round quickly. I suppose the positive is there's a lot of players in there with pro league experience, some good players actually who could, if they hit a good vein of form, could contribute, at this level. Going to be interesting to see how Leonard Mertens does. I think he does have goals in him. He has a physical profile that could do well at this level as well. Everybody knows about Christian Bruhl's almost 38 now. Can he still maintain a level of consistency at Pro League level? We're about to find out. So I don't really know, but my gut makes me nervous about them. The Bakkens appointment is an interesting one because, from the moment I heard that, I was kind of quite worried. I just was not buying that this was the best possible appointment that Beveren could have made. As Joris was saying, I think there's a small network at play here and a small address book, which is fine. Sporting directors often rely on that, but when you're making an appointment like this, I think you've got to be quite cute about it. And we're about to find out how good he really is. It's going to be a bit of a baptism of fire for Tim Bakkens. He has come out and said he's really, really looking forward to it, which I suppose is a good sign. He's up for it and he's going to enjoy himself. But
it would be weird if he wouldn't.
Yeah. Well, exactly. I think so. But it's going to be quite a ride, and like for a lot of sides, getting some points on the board early is going to be so important.
Just remind me. Is it one of the ones where Danny Dyer goes to meet all the football hooligans, and he's sat in the back of the taxi? He's like, "What have I let myself in for?" He's like, "I'm absolutely shitting it." It's like if a manager just came out and said that, that'd be fantastic. Maybe I'm more positive. I don't know. I just feel like they've got creativity and they've got a reasonably solid midfield. In the sense that I kind of like the wingers they've got there, and I think they've got like Kurt Abrahams, who he hasn't never really got the chance at Pro League level. Maybe he can do it now. He's quite small, so I'm really intrigued to see how he deals with it, with his kind of size and stuff. But Margarita, Lokessa, Abrahams out wide. They do need, I think, another person just in case Mertens goes down in terms of goals and stuff. But then you've got Bruls, Brenda Schliever as well. Kuvita will push on and do some bits in there. So I think with a couple of other additions they could be okay. The goalkeeper situation, I agree with you. I'm intrigued to see are they going to go with Daman, or is it going to be just Schutter? Be really interested to see which of those two get the nod. And there's a couple of other positions they could probably do it. But I feel like out of the three kind of like promoted sides, they're probably like they're above Lommel in my sense, just because of again they romped the league, and we have to give them some credit for romping the league. How much is that is down to the manager? How much is that is down to the players? That's basically what we're going to find out over the next couple of weeks, for sure. But it's good to see some of those players back in the Pro League, and to see that stadium back in the Pro League as well. I quite like it as like an atmospheric kind of on like that back end. I don't know what the stands are called, but when they're like normally attacking in the second half to the right hand side, that end always looks quite a good one to be in. So yeah, be intrigued to see how Beveren get on. It has been a long time coming, because they got relegated in the first season we did the podcast, I believe, because they got saved by the COVID thing, and then they went down the Mick of Frey year, and then they had Yakkers, and they had all these guys like Dan Heymans and all those guys that are they're all coming back together. They're getting the band back together, and just at different clubs, all come back for the same season. Let's move on to the Zebras and Charleroi. A lot of action in the transfer window, but whether it's the right sort of action, we'll find out. Mario Conan's been given the job permanently, which is interesting. There was lots of kind of talk about who was going to get the job, and it ended up just being him. So we'll see how long that lasts, which is probably nailing my colours to the mast there. In terms of incoming, they've got Severin Newley. He joins from Hacken in the Allsvenskan. Noah Selhide comes in from Selang. Arthur Kramer as a goalkeeper comes in from Veton. Kim van der Kerkhof's been signed permanently, which I actually really like. I thought he was really, really good for them last season. Big fan of the French Algerian. Isaac Cisse, defensive midfielder, comes in from Golden Arrows in the South African Premiership. A lot of South African transfer business going on this year, which has been quite nice to see. Boubacar Dembaga comes in from Monaco. Adama Boyang, striker, comes in from Stade Reims, Gambian forward. In terms of outgoings, big one, Yassine Tatraoui. He's gone to Lens for around about €8 million. Good luck to him. I think he's going to be a big miss. Etienne Kamara's gone as well. He's gone to Panathinaikos. Isaac Mbenza's gone to Al Yarmouk in Kuwait. Noah Mayoka Tika's gone back to the Challenger Pro League. He's joined Slies on a free. Teodor Forney's gone back to Molenbeek, and Robin Delute's gone to Lokeren. Quentin Bennett, we mentioned, he's gone to Ral. Nicholas Clossett's gone to Veton. Zan Rogelja's gone to Wisła Plock. Jules Godin has gone to Stade Lavallos. Monde Pruda has gone to US Orleans. Some of these guys I don't even know were on the team, to be honest. Especially Monde Prunia, can't remember him ever playing much. Maybe this is a typo, who knows. Anthony de Scott has gone for another loan in the Eredivisie. That man, he just needs to move there. That man's permanently on loan in the Eredivisie. He's gone to Fortuna Sittard. Mehdi Boukami, we already mentioned, he's gone to Val as well. Raymond Asante has gone on loan to Frank Bourans. And Slobodan Stanjlovic is a free agent. So many of those players you do not realise are in Charleroi. And I think they are, maybe they're slightly Leuven-y, and maybe I haven't been harsh enough on them in their transfer business. They are a little bit Leuven-y. But we all know what's really going on there anyway, don't we? Let's be honest. So they're another side that you're kind of like, what do you think they're going to go for this year, Scott? Like, there's some players as well that I'm looking at, Pape Guegon, and I'm like, is he still going to be there at the end of the summer? I'd be shocked, because him being there and not being there, for me, kind of, it changes a lot of how I see this side, basically. And it says a lot if that's kind of if there's one player that can kind of change your opinion on a team, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioning Leuven there, because I was just about to say, when you asked what would you kind of expect of them, and I was going to say mediocrity, to be honest. Mario Conan as a kind of permanent appointment, I'm a bit cool on as well. I just don't really understand that. I think it's easy, but I just kind of don't. I saw nothing last season to suggest that this is the coach that can take this squad on and kind of do something with them. I just get a feeling that Charleroi are kind of, I don't know, a club in a not so much decline, but a kind of stasis period. They've been showing what feels like less ambition. For a couple of years at least now, maybe 3. They have started quite well for most of the last few years. That opening 10 game period has been pretty positive for them, and then it just kind of disappears. But yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult to know. If they get anywhere near mid-table, come later in the season, it'll probably be a good year for them. Their window's really been kind of quite quiet. Ben alluding to, we all know what's really going on there. The Bayet clan, Mehdi and Mogi, kind of really running that show. As they have since day one, since they went in there. So I find it difficult to get too excited by them. I'm hoping they might surprise me, but I haven't seen anything over the summer or towards the end of last season that suggests that, this year they're either going to be interesting to watch or surprising.
So back to the first season of the podcast, because I recall they were the Leuven before Leuven was the Leuven, I guess, at that time. But yeah, I guess here I might just sit on the fence a bit, because I feel like there's still some things that need to be happening. Like Titraoui just left. It has been hanging, of course, but his transfer has been officialized not that long ago, a few days ago as well still. Also Kamara left, so I think in midfield they definitely need something. Apart from that, as Scott also said, like not that much actually happened, despite the whole. Ben actually gave a surprisingly big list of the players there, but I guess it was mainly fringe players moving about a little bit. And of course, Van der Kerkhoff as an in-signing, which is good, but that's also the only out-and-out right back they have at the moment. So behind him, I also still see some work potentially. Then again, they have a few players that can play there as a second position. So. As I said, not a big fan of the second position part too much. And yeah, striking position also still. I mean, I'm quite a fan of Scheidler. He's not the little world league on fire, but he's okay, but still only okay. And then behind him, indeed, there's not much to go on. Especially as Ben alluded to, if Guillaume would leave as well, then. Yeah, everything changes once again, I guess. Then a lot will depend on how they replace him. Apart from that, yeah, I agree with you guys. Not that much to be excited about in Charleroi. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that the striking position, like Schiedler, if they're going to play one, I think it depends what Adama Boyang is like. Like his numbers aren't leaping off the page. But he's only 22, so it's like, who knows? And we've seen players come in to play for Charleroi, especially African forwards that have come in, and then it's like something's clicked and they've got on to do some pretty good things.
And admittedly, also, it's been a while coming. Like usually we complain about Charleroi having 700 strikers actually, and now it came to a point like maybe it's not enough.
They can't win.
Maybe it's not enough, but maybe it is. Maybe it's actually fine like this indeed. But that indeed depends on the players that are there.
Exactly. And I think if let's say Parfait Guégon does stay, like, I'm actually pretty okay with like the wingers they've got and potentially the strikers they've got, because Flute can also play out there. Romsas is kind of that weird sort of hybrid player, and I think that's okay. Like you can have those guys. Same with Colassen, he's a weird sort of a hybrid player, and he's fine off the bench. Like I wouldn't want to be relying on him to score me goals for a full season, but I think he's fine off the bench. It's just that midfield. It's super, super young. It's the same base as Antwerp in terms of like all that. But like you said, Chachai's only just left, so we've got to give them a little bit of time to find someone. But you need to go back to Paradou in Algeria and just grab another midfielder from there, because they just seem to create very, very good central midfielders over there. They've created some quality.
They've done that trick so often that Paradou now relegated though. So I'm not. They might have hit themselves in a very weird way.
They've gutted them.
Yeah. But I think that, and then central defence, like I'm happy with Keita and Usu as the two starting, if you're going to start with those two. But again, I haven't watched much of Solheid, so maybe he's going to be good. I don't know, maybe he's just signed for because he's Belgian. I don't know. And it was weird that they signed Kramer from Verton. Like, he's older than the two goalkeepers they've already got, but only by a year. But then the two goalkeepers they've already got in Delavally and Kone are battling for that number one spot anyway. Like, there is a battle there, and you don't know who's actually going to start between those two. I think they're both good goalkeepers as well. So I think it's kind of like there's no pros and cons to either of them. But at the moment it's a very young team. I am interested in some of their players. I'm interested to see what Isaac Cisse brings, like having moved from South African League and stuff like that. So I'll watch them until I can't watch them anymore and decide that they're actually pretty mediocre, like Scott said. One side that wasn't mediocre last season was Sint-Truiden. They are definitely going on a European adventure. They've got a decent little Europa League draw, so they could get into the Europa League. If not, Conference League would be great. If they can get into the Conference League and draw Brighton, that'd be ideal for me, because I'd love to go watch a bit of Sint-Truiden. Maybe I can host Binky at work. He's more than welcome to come have a pint with me before the game, seeing as I work just across the road from the stadium. So I've already got this all mapped out.
Long overdue for us to get a team selfie with Binky. I've been wanting in for years.
Right, just blow the Europa League playoffs straight into the Conference League, and then someone can bring the draw. We'll be fine.
I'll bring the matches to light him up.
Joris won't be allowed back in any Genk game if he does that.
Joris can wear the outfit, because at least nobody will know he's there other than us.
Until now, damn.
Yeah, right. A lot of change at Sint-Truiden. As you'd expect them to have lost players. That was just natural. But in terms of incomings, we've got Nelson Ishiwatari comes in from Cerezo Osaka in the J League. Jodrik Poops transfer is confirmed from Vancouver. Although I'm pretty sure that was basically done last year, but it's included in the list, so we'll stick in there. Another Ryotaro has come in. This is Ryotaro Araki. He comes in from Kashima Antlers, sorry. Fredrik Suel comes in from Molenbeek as well. In terms of outgoing, Vihito Yamamoto has gone to Freiburg for €7 million. He had such a good season, he was always going to leave. Euclid's left, he's gone to Dunajska Sleda in, I believe that's Slovakia. Isaiah Popo has gone to Patro, which is hilarious because that man's a walking red card and he's going to be with everyone's favourite head coach. So fireworks guaranteed at Patro. Adam Nali's gone on loan to Denda. Ryotaro Ito is still without a club, and I can't believe this. Like, what is going on over that? He's a free agent still. Joe Coppens is without a club, which is less surprising. Out of the two of those players that are free agents, no offense to it's because he's 35. It's like, I'm sure he could get a gig somewhere if he needs to. So yeah, obviously new manager as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how they get on there. I guess the biggest kind of concern for me at the moment is striker Joris. Like, Hotto's obviously left, gone back to Anderlecht, and then obviously also gone over to Freiburg. Defence, I think I'm okay with. They've kept most of the defence together, so that should be okay. Midfield, Merlin can maybe step in for a Yamamoto, but if you're looking at a team that's going to have to be playing European football, this squad is thin.
That is my main concern. Yes, that is my bigger overall main concern. Like, I believe that's 22 players now, maybe one or give or take one or two, but yeah, that squad is way too thin for it to be battling. Well, you are indeed certain of European football for this time for the time being. So, well, lately that's until January actually, I guess, depending on where they drop, I guess, nonetheless. But that's my main worry. Just a very thin squad, together with an indeed new manager, another inexperienced one. So that's, we will have to see. That's also a bit of a gamble, I would still say, regardless of not already knowing him a little bit. And then some of those outgoings, of course, Ito, Yamamoto. Yamamoto, they got decent money for. Ito still hasn't signed somewhere, if I'm not mistaken. So that's an interesting one as well. Where he will end up. Maybe he will sign again with Sint-Truiden, who knows? Eventually, and then still some concerns are, so generally thinning of the squad, and like they're stacked in central defense, center backs, but not that much at the wings, to be honest. So it might be good enough, just about, but I would actually consider buying at least one wing back or playing back for right back and left back, potentially maybe. Similar issue I have a bit with issue. It's more like thinness again, like with Sissako at defensive midfield has been really good for them last year, but if he's not there, I'm not entirely certain how they will play. Like they have some central midfielders and attacking midfielders, but again, more the attacking kind, so not that much the defensive minded ones. That's just this squad is I'm worried, to be honest, for them. I actually am, because mainly because of all of those factors, the whole story, very thin squads, extra games, at least 8, well, actually 10 with the pre rounds. That's. I mean, they need to do some business. I think there's another Limburg club that still needs to do some business in here. That's one thing. The main thing that's clear. Yes, the basis of last year, many of them at least are still there as well. So that is something. But they took out a few important elements, of course, and then including the top scorer, of course. That could be crucial as well. The youth has been promising in the time has been given, but will he be able to indeed carry that attack already from the start this season? We don't know yet. One transfer incoming transfer that I would like to mention, though, is Araki. I'm quite curious how he will be performing. He's dropped off a little bit, but he had a very promising start in the J League before, and maybe he can pick up his career here again as well. And that could be a good signing for them as an attacking midfielder. Could also potentially solve some of those issues that I've mentioned before, even though he's not a big goal scorer. Has not been that, at least so far in his career.
Such an interesting one, this. How they're going to cope playing on two fronts. Joris is right. They do need to, they do need to do more business. I think they're going to play exactly the same way as they did last season. They're going to stick to the model. That's one of the reasons Frederick de Meyer got the job, partly because he was in the club already and knows the club, but obviously had such an effective relationship with Rankin before he went to Hearts. So it's kind of business as usual in that sense. So no change with the way they're going to play, which I think is one big positive in all of this, behind the issues of maybe the squad not having enough depth at the moment. A lot of things going on inside the club as well. They've been upgrading Stijn to be able to play their European games at home, which they're going to be able to do, which is great, because there was a doubt for a wee while. So it's great that they're going to get to do that for everybody concerned, I think. And then obviously they're building a new stand, which won't be ready until kind of this time next year. But the famous chicken coop, the horrible away end, is going to become, something hospitable and normal in the new stand, which is nice. So they are continuing to invest in the club, the owners, which is a good sign. How much that investment will maybe impact on the pitch investment is an interesting equation that nobody really knows the answer to yet. But again, if they have an okay little run in Europe, which I really hope they do, then again, that's all to the positive as well. It's going to be interesting to see how they play it. We know these things can work lots of different ways for you. It could help their domestic form, or it could hamper it as well. They are looking at the striker option. Ben mentioned being quite worried about that. I think they're obviously aware of it. They're looking at a number of targets. So I would expect at least one to come in, possibly two as well. So I think they know their strategy this season is going to have to be a little bit different because of how good they were last year, exceeding expectations, and that kind of raising the bar a little bit. But I am encouraged that the owners are investing and doing what they need to do to stay at Stijn to play in Europe, because it would have been easy to go somewhere else to play their European games and, not bother with that investment. So, that tells me the owners are engaged and want to kind of keep building the project, and they have confidence in what they're doing, because they can lose their manager every year and follow the same template and go again. Joris is right. I think it is a big risk. It definitely is. They could have brought somebody else in to play the same profile of play, but they've stuck with somebody who knows these players, which is going to save them a bit of time as well. So, don't expect a domestic season quite as strong as it was last year. But I'm hoping that they put in a good showing in Europe, because it would be nice to get out to see them, and it would be nice to get to the Daewoo with Sabi Stijn and see a game.
I think they've got to look at what Cercle Brugge did like a couple of years ago. That's got to be what they got to look at. Where it's like they had that fantastic season and could have brought in some more players and decided not to bring in some more players, and it just all unraveled. And they're still dealing with the fallout from that now and trying to get back to the position they were in. So obviously, like it's slightly different in terms of like templates and young players and all that sort of stuff. But I do think they need to look at it and be like, right, we're more similar to that than we are to like Union going into Europe for the first time or anything like that. Like we've got to look at it and be like, we need more players. And what I don't understand is why it's not been kind of pushed through a little bit quicker and a little bit more, because like you said, we knew they were going to get European football. They've known they're going to get Conference League or Europa League. Like you can convince players to come based on either of those competitions. I don't think you need to wait to enter one of those competitions to decide, because I think the type of player they're going to attract anyway would be happy to come and play either of the European competitions. I don't think they'd probably have a preference. So it shouldn't really change who you're going for. So I do think they need to get on with it. I'm glad at least they've got like some continuity with some of the players and some of the more experienced players. They've still got a great goalkeeper at the moment as well. So I'd be worried if they lost Leo Kakubo, to be honest, because I think, he's going to be he could be quite important in European football. Sasaka as well is going to be really important in European football. Like, they're really going to need someone like that to be able to do the job. And it's like, if he goes down, like Joris said, you're going to have to find someone from somewhere. Let's move on to a side that would love to be playing European football, but they haven't played European football for ages, and that is Standard Liège. No new manager there. Vincent Everard has remained, but there is some turnover. Some players have left for some fees that are quite eye-opening. But let's start with the incomings. They've brought in Saliou Dlamé from Lillestrøm, Gambian left winger. Sylvester Jasper joins from Zelav Panseko, but I'm pretty. Wasn't everyone saying he was going to join Zulte Waregem? I saw everyone saying he was joining Zulte Waregem. Like today, he's joining Zulte Waregem, and then now he's at Standard Liège. Did he get lost? Like, did he just get a bit confused? He turned up at the wrong stadium, and they were like, "Sure, mate, yeah, you can have a contract." Ran Tuska joins from Pau. Alexis Trullo joins from Rodez. Lawrence Gouimer joins from Club Next. Brunian Simba, we already kind of knew about. He joins from Dender. Dimitri Lavallee's back, everyone. He joins from Sturm Graz on a free transfer. Outgoings Rafiki Saeed. I'm very sad about this, but I can't believe they got 9 million euros for him, or whatever it was, 10 million or whatever. Like the fee's mad. He's gone to Wolves. Reni Matongo has gone to Trabzonspor. David Bates has gone to Ahmed in the Turkish league. Now Mesatu, we've already mentioned, he's gone back to Kortrijk. Teddy Tuma has gone to Slima Vonda in the Maltese Premier League, which is, I can't imagine him in the Maltese Premier League. Like part of me, I just want to go watch a game. I just want to see Teddy Tuma in the Maltese Premier League. Do you know what I mean? Kravita, we've already mentioned, gone to Beveren. Alexander Karutz, free agent. Rajon Key, free agent. Suleiman Dumbi is left on a free. Bolly Bolingoli is also left on a free, and Mathieu Godefroy has left on a free as well. They still want to do some business in terms of outgoings. I think they do want to clear a couple of these players out. But I mean, I think they're still kind of an intriguing team, in my opinion. Especially up front, they've got a lot of young kind of players. Like in Canada, we saw a little bit of, not actually a young player, but Nguini, who came in. They've obviously brought in Nsimba as well. Like, they got some interesting players in and around the squad. So I think they'll be okay. I think on a good day, on a good season, if those players click, they could probably push for one of the European spots. But do you trust them to be able to push for a European slot? Do we trust that there won't be some drama that comes out of the club at some point in the season that just kind of derails everything? Do you think Vincent Everard's going to survive the season? Like, there's so many questions, and because it's Standard Liège, you just don't know what's going to go on. But it seems a little bit less chaotic-y going into the season, a little bit more like transfers have been done. The squad's probably ready for the season. Like, out of all the teams, this is one of the more ready sides. I can't remember the last time we said that about Standard Liège, but there we are.
hold your horses. They lost 0-3 against third divisionist Eintracht Braunschweig in their last friendly.
That's standard though. It's standard Liège, right?
Okay, again, preseason doesn't matter, and I'm gonna leave the words to Scott because it's his turn, of course, as well. But that's give the word back to him. But yeah, that's well, just when you want to get too positive about some squad, all of the squads, to be honest, there've been some very strange results in all the friendlies. But it's preseason, so no conclusions on that. Just a fun thing to mention here too after this.
Standard are in the same league as Anderlecht to me, insofar as some people take a big intake of breath there to see what I'm going to say, but the same league in the sense that it's very difficult to make any kind of predictions based on anything other than, actually seeing them play, for a reasonable number of games. I don't know. Is this squad, even with the incomings, is it stronger than last year? I don't know. I honestly don't know. Vincent Everard is a bit bulletproof. He's got a very close relationship with Mark Wilmots, which has obviously helped him a lot. And last season, they spoke at great length, both of them, in a lot of press conferences about how they've been very unlucky with injuries to key players and with suspensions, some of which were undeserved, they argued, and that hampered any kind of consistency for them. Worth reminding everybody that this was a side who seriously struggled to win back-to-back games all season. And I'm just waiting for them to win 3 domestic games because we can all have a party when that happens. That will be progress. I keep looking at Standard and looking for reasons to, believe in Vincent Everard's work. He's a very hard-working coach. He's quite well liked by those who work with him. There was a lot of mitigating circumstances, he might describe them, last season in kind of hampering them doing a little bit better than they actually did. Having said that, if you bear in mind those circumstances, they probably did okay. I really don't know what to expect of them this year because I'm not convinced yet that the squad is necessarily better. We'll find out quickly. What they can't do is have anything like the sort of season in terms of their form as they did last year, because if they click into that, win one, lose one, draw one type thing, which was generally their pattern for the entire season, then they really are going to struggle. Because, in this system, it's just different. I would like to be positive about them. I've tried to kind of be positive about them in the past, and, it's going to be good for the league and good for Belgian football to see a slightly better Standard. I think we need that. And the league needs that. So I think it's a case of wait and see. Their fixture list for the opening few weeks of the season isn't too bad, I don't think, which is a positive for them. So it's an opportunity for them to have a positive start and, get a little bit of momentum.
Yeah, and that's also one of the reasons why I kind of am more in the Ben sense of positivity, maybe a little bit even about Standard in this season. They've done some business. Drame could be, sorry if I butchered that last name though, that's possible, but could be an interesting signing. Sylvester Jasper as well, given circumstances immediately as well. Said going is of course a big loss though for that side. So things need to click, otherwise, that positivity can go could be gone quite soon. I feel like their squad on the other hand, maybe they should swap some players with Sint-Truiden or something, because their squad is a bit too big for a season without European football, I would say. Or loan them out for a little fee every week or something like that. But not completely convinced by the defense still, maybe. But apart from that, and of course, indeed, the goal scorer. So that's still important things that need to be addressed. But they have the players that could be doing that, and I've got a feeling that it might click this season for them a bit better. I mean, that doesn't mean a top 3 finish or anything close to that either necessarily, but they first half finish and not more than that. I mean, quite maybe fighting for last European tickets, something like that. That would probably be progress as well for them. even though they somehow were quite close to at least having a shot at a European ticket as well, but then they blew that. So that's the step they need to take. And of course, now they need to be in a better position, starting position, because without playoffs in the position they were last year, that would have been just a bad season actually, I guess. But I'm relatively. I mean, high on them is maybe not I'm lukewarm on them, I guess. But to focus on warm still a bit. But yeah, and it's true. Like they've actually had like very stable summer for their being, also with things around the club. But yeah, is that a quiet before the storm? And in which direction does the storm go? That's the question.
Yeah, that's the kind of worrying thing, is it? You're like, something's about to happen. Surely something's going to happen. I think I'm positive because I just feel like they've replaced, like players have left and they've replaced them much quicker and better than some of the other teams. And like it obviously depends. If Jasper and Drama can kind of do what Said did, and as much as I love Rafiki Said, like what he did really well wasn't necessarily the goals and the assists. It was kind of just a direct play and like shifting things and like taking players out of the game. So that is replaceable. That is replaceable. If you can find, if Boody and Simba can come in and score some goals, like you can replace his goals somewhere else, but then still have someone that can do that kind of beating the man. Like, and Abid also played well. Like, I think those two obviously were the two wingers signed, and he had a good season. So yeah, you've got the Madagascar Pirlo in the midfield as well. Like you're always going to be fine with him in there.
There goes my confidence, to be honest. I do fear his time might have passed, and yes, I know he will now score.
It's like a fine wine.
He will score a few goals against Genk, and even in their bad season, standard win from Genk anyway lately. So I'm not even worried about a curse or anything. So, but I do fear that his time might have passed.
Never. I'll never give up on him. I think defensively, I think I liked a little bit of what I saw from Mortensen. I think there's some development there. Henry Lawrence had a decent season. Fossey, if they can keep him fit. But it's again, like Fossey keeping fit and then Homeru keeping fit is huge as well. Because in my opinion, Homeru was their best defender last season. He got those horror injuries and it just really doesn't help because, how much are we actually going to get to see of him this season after all those injuries, unfortunately? So, but they've brought in Lavalley at least, so they've brought in someone to play in defence. Whether that's a good signing or not remains to be seen. I think they should make the top 6 in my opinion. That might just suggest more of some of the other teams around rather than kind of them, but that's presuming there's going to be a drop-off from some of those teams like Sint-Truiden and Mechelen, basically. And I think at the moment, if I had to look at those squads, I think they're in a better position than Sint-Truiden just because of the European games. Let's get on to Union. Clearly going to be the title challengers, them and Club Brugge. I just don't see how that's not going to be the case, and I think it would be quite shocking if that isn't the case. And I think, if Union aren't up there, I don't think David Hubert will last very long, because they really should be up there. And so many years we've come into the season and been like, are they going to be like, they've lost the manager, they've lost this, they've lost that. But I think we're done with that now. They are considered one of the premier teams in the league quite comfortably. Interesting incomings as per usual with them. They spend a little bit more money than they usually do. But again, they're still signing players from places that you don't normally expect them to, or don't normally see people signing from. So Ondrej Krish-Falushi has joined from Banik Ostrava in the Czechia League. Relebahile Mofokeng, Orlando Pirates, just blew up because South African football fans are just everywhere and obsessed. So they've got like an entire nation behind them with the Mofokeng signing. But he could be a really, really interesting player to watch this season. Darius Alaru comes in from Bucharest. Ilan Hurtevent, we've already mentioned, he comes in from Kortrijk. Nicky Halvaner comes in from SV Ried. Lohim Chibani comes in from Queverly, I think it is. Kia Boots comes in from Dessel Sport. And then Herv Coffey is back, everyone. He comes in on loan from...
Who's that?
The cat is back. Funny moment that Alex Reshad Scott, I think before the transfer was even announced, just to be like, Ben's going to be really happy with this.
Before it was official, yeah.
Absolutely buzzing to see the cat back. He had such a good season. I'm sorry, he was on loan at Amiens last season. He was one of the best keepers in Ligue 1. Like, I saw so many people raving about how good he was. And I was just like, yes, wasted on loans. Thankfully, he's back in the Pro League. Upgrade on Sherpen easily. Sherpen's gone. Who even cares about Sherpen when you've got the cat? He goes to Ipswich for a nice little fee. Burgess, obviously, you've already mentioned he leaves. It's going to be so weird seeing Burgess playing for Gent against Union. I do have a theory that he's going to pull one of his usual tricks and actually get sent off, because like that'll just wind up Belgian football fans no end to see Burgess leave Union and then like not get the treatment that they think he gets or does get or something. Mamadou Thierry Barry has gone on loan to Al Shabab. Guillaume Francois has retired, and Jens Tuchnen has left the club. Still expected there could be some moving and shaking. Like obviously they've replaced Sherpen with Coffee. In terms of kind of other outgoings, it was kind of like Promise David. I haven't heard a lot about actually. I don't know if you guys have heard many rumours, but that's been quite quiet. And I think the injury hit season has kind of hampered his ability to get a move. So maybe he's going to stick around and kind of try and re-up kind of his kind of stardom and stuff. So maybe a January move. I don't know, because he looked good at the World Cup. Like he came on and put himself about. I had a couple of mates who were like, "Yeah, this guy's fun." Like I was like, "Yeah, he's just going to come on and do stuff," because that's what Promise David does. Trying to think of where else there were some moving shakers, but yeah, because it's quite a big squad, especially in the striking position. Like there's a lot of strikers in there. So I'll be intrigued to see if they will stay. The problem they had, obviously, last year was all the key strikers got injured, which kind of derailed their title push. So I guess the idea is that this year that actually won't happen. But yeah, I think you look at it, it would be weird not seeing Burgess at the back, but they brought in Havana, who's an experienced defender. They still got Rossi Sykes, who really stepped up to be a key player for them last season. They've still got Kevin McAllister. So yeah, pushing for the title, surely.
Well, I see no reason for them not to do Union things, really. Ben hit upon it exactly a minute ago when he said, nobody should really doubt this side, and that remains the case. They've done a fair bit of business early, and I think they've had quite a good pre-season. There's been a lot of concentration on offensive work, I think, in terms of the signings, and in their performances as well. And they've just become a really seasoned Pro League side now. They know what they're about as a club, the way they like to play, but I think they know how to handle this league. And we were talking about whether club are favourites, which they are on paper, and we spoke about that caveat of, well, club haven't always handled a regular season sparklingly always. Union have. I mean, Union have won the regular season for forever now. So bearing that in mind, everybody should be very wary of this side. Union understand the importance of being consistent from the start and maintaining a level. Nobody's better at it than actually them. When club hit their heights and they get in and about you, then yes, you've got a game and you've got a challenge, but they set a standard, I think, which is hard to beat. And the Super Cup just last week, a game that most people don't really care about unless you have skin in the game, wasn't actually a bad game. And we saw a bit of the rivalry needle that we've seen over the last few years with these sides because of the building momentum and the recognition that these two sides are the only real title challengers in town at the moment, as Ben was saying. And on Mofokeng's already made an impression, scored the winning penalty in the Super Cup, gave a great post-match interview where he spoke about, being really happy to be there. And he looked like a kid in a sweet shop, to be honest. He looked like, I've come to this great country and this great club and I'm going to have a great time and, get in about it. But he's going to bring energy and kind of creativity and offensive options for them. Another player who had a good World Cup as well. Really interesting pickup for Union because there was quite a bit of interest in him as well. So he's chosen carefully and wisely, I think. And at the moment, as Ben was saying, Promise David is still there, an important player. We know what he can do. And I don't think many of us necessarily expected him to be there still. I mean, obviously, there's still a month to go as of recording. So, that's an age in transfer window terms. we'll see where we go. But yeah, looking forward to watching them again. They're always entertaining. Be interesting to see how the defence adjusts. Ben alluded to that, minus Burgess, because he was a big part of the personality of that side as well. And yeah, McAllister's still there and Rossi Sykes, who actually are in the same mould as Burgee. Do you know what I mean? Clearly they all saw eye to eye. There's no doubt about it. That's why they were such a tight unit and so effective. So I don't think it's going to hamper them in any real sense. But yeah, always looking forward to watching the side. Always a good trip as well, the Marion. And I'm expecting another title challenge.
Yeah, and as you could have expected by now, I'm expecting another title win even as well. That's my favorites. It was not a real secret. I think that could have been kept out the whole time until here. I think people knew when I mentioned it at the beginning already, but I just feel like that because they feel more ready for the season, being very proactive. There are the caveats that you mentioned already, of course, Burgee leaving, but I do think that might be the right call at the right time as well for Union. Nonetheless, of course, his replacement still needs to be on point. Is that the case? We will have to see. And Scherpen leaving as well. Don't think anyone next year expected him to be as good a keeper as he has been for them last year. That's really, I guess he was not their cup of tea. So in the end, they went for coffee instead now. The one thing that's overhanging, well, a few overhanging things indeed. Promise Davis, indeed. What will happen if, for example, he has a good first few weeks of the season and the window is still open? That maybe there's still some doubts for some teams because of the injuries. But if he has a good start of the season, they might disappear. And of course, the Kalaili situation as well. I guess he's still expected to leave, but the missed transfer for medical reasons to Inter and to any Italian club because of that already as well is, of course, a bit a situation to monitor, I guess. There have been outgoing rumors for him nonetheless already after that again, but what will that do, and will it actually make him stay? That also could be important for their season. But I just feel like they've done their business well. It's been relatively quiet in around the club, at least. Yeah, and some players leaving, Stalwart leaving in Burgess, but I'm quite confident indeed in them being one of the more ready sides for the season, if not the most ready, even as well.
Yeah, I mean, the system works, doesn't it? Like they've identified targets, they go out and get the targets, like they know what they're doing. Players ready to be replaced. Kaleli, I think even with him leaving, I think they should be okay. They can probably plug the gap with a couple of other players potentially. And it's a shame that move didn't happen. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's such a huge move for him, and he's played so well, and he kind of does deserve it. And yeah, for his sake, and it's again Union doing their thing, where they're like, we will let you go if the bid comes in. Like, we're not going to stop you going. So at least for him, he can be like, well, they're willing to let me go. It's not like Union pulled the plug or anything. So yeah, it means if Promise David just starts smashing in 10 goals by the end of August, I think there'll be teams going. But to be fair, that end of the window, a Premier League team gets desperate, don't they? Like, that's normally what happens. So we'll see what goes on there. But they've at least got enough striking depth at the moment. I feel like last year I was really anti what Westerlo have done, and I was like, couldn't stand what they'd done. And some people had to go at me about it. I'm not that bad on them this year, so let's move to them, because I have to think they've lost some players, but I think they've made some signings that have actually replaced them. So let's go through their kind of signings. So Ibrahim Fofana, defensive midfielder, joins from Amiens. Cesar Sandra, he comes in from Club Brugge on a permanent deal. That's not a loan anymore for him. René Munz comes in from Greuther Fürth. Lasse Flo comes in right back from Belgian in Denmark. Cameron Congreve, he comes in from Swansea. I believe he was in your neck of the woods last year, Scott, so we'll be interested to see how he gets on over here. Fabio Ferraro has jumped back into the Pro League after being relegated with Dender. He comes in at left back. David Amignalglo comes in from Freiburg's second team. Bill Laffers comes in from Molenbeek. Norman Bassett's back. He joins in on loan from Coventry. Bassett's been signed because Nacho Ferry's gone. He joins Feyenoord for a decent fee. That transfer definitely worked for Westerlo, picking him up, getting him to score some goals, selling him on. Perfect bit of business there. Arthur Kiedfort, he's also gone after a good season. He goes to Auxerre in Ligue 1. Brian Reynolds has also joined him. He's gone to Stade Rennes. Emin Bayram has been such a good player for them, but it was about time that he was going to leave. He's gone to Başakşehir, but they suffered like a horrendous loss. I think it was in the Conference League. I can't remember who they lost to, but I was just like, couldn't believe they lost to them. Someone wants to check that, but it was a wild one that I was just like, didn't that team used to be good?
Sofia, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Sofia, it was, yeah.
One of them. It wasn't CSK, I guess, but okay, don't pin me down on the details. Bulgarian
it wasn't
fans.
like just it wasn't just a defeat though. It was a mauling that they got. Yusmir Alcacer has gone to Sparta Prague. Alias Sayad Manesh has gone to Lech Poznan on a free. Fernand Guri's finally gone. He's gone to also join the Polish League. He's gone to Radom. Koen van Lengerbroek's gone to Patro. Zenzo de Bock has gone to Tesport. Oscar Anel's gone to KFC Houtven. Like, just all these goalkeepers are leaving. Raf Smekens is free. Bakary Haidar is free agent. And Enzo Gertz is a free agent. And Roman Neustadt has retired. So a lot of outgoings. A decent amount of incomings. But they've, I think what I've liked is that they've gone and signed, they signed a centre-back. They can maybe sign another centre-back to replace Byram. They haven't got a million strikers on the books anymore. They've got Bassett, they've got Patral. They'll probably go and sign another striker. They've got a couple of wingers. Cesar Sandra could be an interesting one. He's had a couple of opportunities abroad in the Netherlands, not really done much. But I think the squad's not massive anymore, and I think that's what kind of makes me a little bit happy, because I just felt that they had this huge squad and didn't have enough of the time for all these young players. Whereas now they've got a slightly smaller squad, these younger players can actually get some game time. We can kind of see what they're about. So, yeah, interested to see how Westerlo get on this season. And I don't think their business is done, because in true Westerlo fashion, they've got some money to spend now, and they've got kind of places to spend it, I guess you could say.
Yeah, so Bulgarian fans can still lynch me as well. Of course, it was Inter Turku that out of Finland, which is a way bigger shock.
That's what. I knew it was someone really rogue, and I was like, good start for Bayern.
That's one thing, and the other thing as well. Like you mentioned it, a lot of young players. Well, as a matter of fact, Sidorchuk is not only the only player above 30, but above 26 in that squad, and that's worrying me a bit. Even though I actually see, much like Standard, I see them clicking quite well this season. So I'm relatively high on them despite that. But again, one of those sides, if some things go wrong, we'll have to see how robust they are indeed and managing disappointments and then in that case, continuous disappointments if they can get out of that. There's outside of the club, there's been this rumors around the whole city takeover. I don't think anything has really come out of that. Also, I think the rumors came from someone who's not been very much right a lot this transfer window yet, if I'm not mistaken. But maybe they came from somewhere still. So that's another topic. Yes, I'm talking about Sacha Tavernier. I have to name it as well, of course. Sorry if you're listening, even, but it's not been so good this season yet. Me too, but in case he does, or maybe someone points it, you can point him at me if you want. That's I'm okay with that. But yeah, selling Ferry is of course also a thing. 4 seasons in a row now, they sell a striker for around $10 million and euro. No, well, presumably also dollar, but fee there. But yeah, I feel like indeed they need to do some more business, because I think they're very lean currently. In their squad, and like I said, very, very young. Sidorchuk, of course, brings a lot of experience in one player. That's a thing, of course. Off the pitch, that could be very, very useful, I'm sure. But yeah, we'll have to see if it indeed clicks. This could also go wrong, like I mentioned. Not that much I can really say yet about the rest. It could be exciting. I don't necessarily already see another 10 million striker in that squad yet, so that's maybe something as well. But if Bassett gets things running, maybe But so far, he hasn't shown it at this level yet that he could do that. So yeah, we will have to see. But they had a decent squad before going into this season, or last season, I guess. So I'm not too down on them either. But indeed, some work to do still.
I feel quite good about Westerlo. A bit like Ben. They played a lot of good football last season, I thought. Didn't get their rewards in a lot of cases for complex reasons. Sometimes very slim margins in games, but yeah, there were periods of last season where they played some really good football. I thought, and if they can carry that into the season, then I see no reason why they can't have a decent season. Very young squad, as you were saying, guys, which obviously is a good thing on the whole, providing they have, some little sprinklings of experience in kind of key areas. Smart selling, reinvestment, owners have some money, as you were all saying. They've lost some proven goal scorers, some experienced defenders, and they're going to need the new offensive signings and the midfielders to kind of adapt quickly if they're going to hit the ground running. How they're going to cope with an expanded league, I suppose that's a question. I like Issam Shirai, actually. I think he's a good coach. I like what he did there generally last season. So it's going to be interesting to see him having a second year, a crack at a second year, and what he could do there. I think they're pretty well positioned for stability. If they get anywhere around mid-table, that'll be a really good season for them. But they have the potential to do a little bit better than that. They're a side at the moment I would have down to potentially be a bit of a surprise overall. I don't see a lot of things that suggest that they aren't going to go and play a lot of good football again. They just need to kind of, those small margin areas, those areas that make the difference between getting points and not, game management issues, those kinds of things. If they can tighten up in some of those areas and be a bit cuter, then I can see them having quite a positive season.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. I think compared to some of the other teams, yeah, they could definitely do something, and they've got money to spend if they want to. And they haven't signed anyone from the Turkish league yet, have they? So there's still the potential to get some young players from over there, because that's usually what they like. But maybe that's all tied up in this whole City thing, who also have Turkish owners. And I mean, part of me wants that takeover to happen, because I don't know if you guys saw, but the Hull owner is just like telling everyone how likely they are to sign players and kind of spreading kind of the transfer news anyway. He's like, this is how close we are percentage wise to signing players from these countries and stuff, and then people are just putting names to the flag. So very kind of open access vibe going on there. Final team, Zulte Waregem, and I hadn't really looked at them yet, maybe because they are bottom of the kind of table thing, and we are going to get the derby with Kortrijk this year. It could just be a 1 year thing, judging from what I'm looking at here. I am suddenly concerned. So let's get into this one. Michael Beale is the new manager. So yeah, I'm sure there'll be a Twitter account being created very soon to promote the wonders of Michael Beale and his job at Zulte Waregem. Although, to be fair, he's got his work cut out for him, I think, this season. I think it was really frustrating is when you get a manager coming in who's slightly under pressure, like maybe like a still at Raal, and then they're not really given much to go with, and then they obviously struggle, and everyone's like, yeah, well, they're crap, aren't they? But it's like, but maybe there's some other factors involved. So in terms of incomings, not a lot. They've brought in Zalan Atrok, which is definitely not how you say his name. He comes in from NTK Budapest, 20-year-old left winger. Hemzi Akpa Chukwu comes in from Solang, another striker. And Male Ake's move from Sport has been made permanent. Outgoings, Joseph Opoku's gone to Swansea. That's a big loss. Quite a big fee involved in that. Jeppe Ehrenberg, we've already mentioned. Big loss for Zulte Waregem. Stavros Gabriel joined last year. He's already gone. He's gone to Nacional in Portugal. Lucas Villens left on a free. He's gone to Pogon Szczecin. Anders Labli has gone to Sporting Hasselt. Jelle Vossen's gone to Beerschot. Ibrahim Diabate has gone to Egnatia in Albania. Thibaut Sargent has gone to Westerlo. Ernio van der Goes made his move to Rio Ave permanent. Sivan Kemolen has gone to Sporting Hasselt. And Benoit Neeson is without a club. the big ones out of Poku and Ehrenberg, they've both gone, and they've clearly not been replaced. Like, there's no way those two have been replaced. With the two young guys that they find as strikers, they've obviously got Atroxo as the winger. Like, maybe he could replace Ehrenberg. I don't know. I'm not going to pretend that I've watched Hungarian football and have any idea how good he is. Ake had some moments last year where you're like, he looks like he could be quite good. They've obviously still got the big man in Amenta, a couple of others, but yeah, Michael Beale's. I've said it already. I'll say it again. He's got his work cut out for him to keep this side in the league, I think, and it shouldn't be that way because they got promoted, they survived last season, and it's time to start building. And it feels like they're not, and I don't know why. They've got the Opoku money now. Like, it's time to get some players in because this looks like a team that's going to have a slow start, and that could be, quite bad.
Yeah, this is an interesting one as well because they're in the middle of a bit of an adaptation period, I suppose. Ehrenberg and Apoku were excellent and important for them. And there's no signs yet anyway that they've been replaced in the way that you would like. I think a tougher schedule in a bigger league where they're going to be playing more competitive sides more regularly without adding more depth to the squad, as Ben was saying, is going to be a problem for them. So a lot of work to do. I think there's also adaptation to Michael Beale's methods. Interesting appointment. He's come into Zulte and has really grasped this opportunity actually to kind of rehabilitate his career a little bit. He was obviously working with Steven Gerrard, who's worked with a lot. And he didn't have a great time at Sunderland. Ben mentioned the burner Twitter account, which many of you will know about. We won't explain the story behind that because I'm sure enough of you know about it, but it is very, very funny and very, very true. Love a story like that. Going to be really interesting to see how he does because he's coming to manage in a league which is very competitive and very strong. And he's at a stage in his own career where if this doesn't work for him, then, there's then a bit of a track record building of not having a great time. I've always had this feeling about Michael Beale that I think he's better as a T2 or a T3. I haven't seen a lot in his career to suggest that he is T1 material, if I'm being really honest. This job is definitely going to test him. He's coming into a competitive league and a side which I suppose has potential. So it's definitely an attractive project for him. The pluses for him and for Zulte are he does have a good track record of working with young players. That's probably one of his biggest strengths. And that's, I think, in a way, what got him this job, because it's a big part of the job that he's in at the moment. I'm a little bit concerned about Zulte, but kind of relaxed at the same time because a month is still a long time to go. And I hope they do more business because if they don't, then it's only going to take a few injuries for them to really get, sucked into a difficult season. But it's going to be really interesting to see how Michael Beale does. Atroc that Ben mentioned, I'm quite keen to have a look at him. He's quite highly rated. There's a lot of people, reasonably excited by him. So I'm keen to see if he's got any chops about him and see how he gets on. But it's nice to have Zulte back and to have another regional derby, as Ben was saying, in the division again, because, a bigger crowd, a bit of excitement locally is always a good thing on the ground.
Yeah, and so at least we have now in the two top divisions some managers that have some interesting accounts on have had at least interesting accounts on the internet as well. So to make it even more clear about what type of thing you need to think about with Michael Beale. But I'm actually currently changing my prediction for them because I had them a little too high. So I am worried about them indeed. They indeed didn't replace Opoku. Okay, Vossen didn't feature as much, but also left. Gabriel Nielsen also featured a lot. At least Nielsen. Gabriel, not that much. He scored one of the goals of the season, though, towards the end of last season. So that's why I still put it there. As usual, very worried about your defense as well. Much like Cercle Brugge, it's been like a perpetual defensive worry that's keeps on going. And doesn't seem to be addressed. That really is a worry for them. Yeah, and in the putting my very way too rude and early judgy moments on, can we maybe just reverse the Ehrenberg transfer? You get your money. Well, we can get our money back, please, and you get the player back. You might need him more than we do this season. But this falls purely under the fan category of comment, of course. But that's that squad needs a lot still. Ementa, of course, up front, I still feel like they might be okay. Ementa is not a goal scorer, but he's been good, relatively quite good hold-up player. Hedel is, on the other hand, relatively the goal scorer, so maybe he will need to put that on, of course, though, this season if they want some success. But for the rest, there are some decent players here and there for sure in that squad, but the squad on a whole does not look so very both ready or exciting for this season. So on that note, we finish the roundup of all teams, I guess. That positive note, on that bombshell, like some other commenters would say. But that maybe we should also not mention those, but or reference those. But that's also still in goal, not completely convinced. Okay, Gabriel has been okay, I guess. Well, I'll give him that. That's okay. But in general, the defensive part of the field, mainly, it's not been looking good so far. Even though the results in preseason actually have been quite good. So to actually end on a relatively positive note.
They win the preseason cup. As many sides do, yeah. I think there's a unanimous message from us to all of the club's sporting directors, and that's get on with it. We've still got a month to go, but you've got a lot on your plate, so check your inbox and make sure your phone's charged.
I think there's going to be constant phone calls being made out. I don't think they even really replaced Nadi when he left during last season either. Like that's going to be an important position. Yeah, I'm concerned because, like you said, like Amenta, like he's good. Like I like him, and to be fair, I think Akbar Chukwu is like 6'2" as well. So like they could just go double big man, and just like see if that works. And he scored, I think, 9 goals in the CPL, so it's not bad. He's only 21 as well, so maybe he's going to be good and he's going to like help out. But I don't know. It just feels like they had like some key players. Like Ehrenberg was a key player. Apoka was a key player. Going forward, those guys were so key. With a Menton, it worked because those guys could do that. And then I think St. Thomas Klaas in midfield is a good player. He is really important for them in midfield. So keeping hold of him is good. But I just look at this team. It does just scream relegation battle to me at the moment, which is a real shame because it's like I feel like they could have build on something. There's still time, obviously. So let's see kind of how they get on. But yeah. What a great way to end the preview with Zulte Waregem doing that. But hey, we'll get to kind of August, end of August, like beginning of September. The transfer window will be shut, and then we can have another kind of reflective look and to see kind of like, okay, where have teams signed players and all that sort of stuff. So we're going to keep keeping an eye on it. If you haven't been here before, if you're finding us for the first time, we are going to be doing weekly podcast. That's what we do. So we'll kind of talk about the main action from the weekend's fixtures. It kicks off this week. Club Brugge take on Kortrijk to start things off. And yeah, we'll be back every single week to kind of go through everything, talk about all the shenanigans and stuff. It'll be weird without the playoffs. We won't be able to talk about players. We'll be doing some mental adjustment to that. You can guarantee that Scott will be here. Joris and I will try our hardest to be here alongside him. You may even get a Scott solo podcast.
Somebody will be here. Somebody will be here.
Even if it's not one of us. But
yeah, I would indeed hold the horses if we can keep the 1 week schedule going. But let's see if we can. If not, we will inform you throughout an episode, of course. Like if the format changes and we do it a bit more once a month or once bi-weekly, or I don't know. This is all very open. We don't know that yet, to be honest. I would put it like that, but we're aiming for once a week still. That's still the goal for now. That's all we know for now.
My batteries are charged, so let battle commence.
And also, so for this first one, if you've got any questions off the back of our preview, please do send them in. We can answer those next week after the first games get kicked off, because there's usually like I'll get the guys to do an overreaction to the opening game, but apart from that, you can't really draw too much from an opening match unless something horrendous happens or something crazy happens. But yeah, we'll be back again next week. If you've made it through the entirety of this, congratulations. We really do appreciate it. We hope that you're looking forward to the Pro League starting. I know it always feels like these things happen earlier and earlier with the World Cup only having just finished. But yeah, send us your predictions as well. I'll put my league table together. Joris has already put his together. Scott's going to have to put his together if he hasn't done so already. We'll put those out on our social media and you can see how wrong we'll be by the end of the season. I can't even remember how well we do. I think I've always notoriously put teams far higher than they need to be and then end up getting relegated. But yeah, we'll see. Before we head off, guys, anything you want to mention? Anything you don't think we've mentioned in the 3-4 hours or whatever that we've said?
I think they have everything they need to know and more. As promised, we did exactly what we said on the tin for another year.
Yeah, but except like, Ben, what are you talking about? I don't think we ever had a bumper preview like recorded in August. This must be the latest one, maybe the first one, but that was on your own. So that's still, and I think even that might have been in July. So that. Yeah,
to be fair, we did have to leave it really late this year, guys, didn't we? For a whole host of reasons. One of them being the fact that very few sides had done any business, so we wouldn't have been preparing everybody very, very well on the basis of no work.
In that sense, it's still early, indeed. That I agree too. But that's that's not regarding the date, but more about the preparedness of the clubs, which they're not.
That's why everybody needs to listen to this within at least the next 7 to 10 days. Otherwise, this is going to have long lived its sell-by date.
Yeah, good point. That's a disclaimer. We forgot to make in the beginning, maybe Ben made it in the beginning. It's been so long I even forgot. But yeah, there might be a lot of things happening at clubs that might completely alter our opinions on this as well. But that's I guess that's the regular listeners will already know that, and I guess everyone understands that as well. As of recording, so like the 3rd of August. We or 3rd and 4th. We're not gonna deny that we wrote it actually in 2 sessions here, but that's the status of affairs, and that's where you have to take it from.
Absolutely, yeah. So enjoy the season, everyone. Thank you for listening. If you've liked this, please do leave us a review on your podcast app of choice. We've also got a Buy Me a Coffee. If you really did enjoy it, you can buy us a coffee to start the season off strong. Scott's about to go grab a beer. Joris is, I don't know what, maybe you're going to grab a beer as well, or just some sleep. Get yourself sleep training and for your own self well-being. I'm going to go eat some pizza, and we'll speak to you very soon next week, hopefully on the next episode of the Belgian Football Podcast.